So I reached out to another friend of mine. I said, look, you know, I need to go on vacation somewhere. Where should I go? He said, go to Africa. And not only am I going to go, I'm going to explore a new country. So I went to Tanzania, South Africa, Namibia, Mali, Senegal, Morocco, Liberia, Namibia, Kenya, the Voodoo Festival in Ouida, Gambia, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire. Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria. It's been a beautiful experience, just learning more about our culture, our indigenous culture. So Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. I'm in search of my roots. In finding that, I would experience my Uhuru, which is freedom. Till next time, Dynast Amir, I'm out.
Oh, hold on. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. Peace, family, peace. I hope all is well. I hope what's today? Sunday. I hope your Sunday is going well. Do me a favor, hit the like button again, please. Hit the like button. Also, make sure you share and make sure you subscribe. There we go. That's better. Bam. There we go. Let me get my camera together. Okay, there we go. Make sure you share. Make sure you subscribe to the content. If you are new and if you are not a subscriber, please join the family. Again, please join the family. I would greatly appreciate it. Would love to see more new, beautiful faces up in here. Again, would like to see some new, beautiful faces up in here. So again, please hit the like button. Also share. Make sure you subscribe. If you have not bought the documentary, again, if you have not bought the documentary In Search of Uhuru, Super African Media Labs. Thank you, brother. Shout out to you. Super African Media Labs. Have you bought the documentary? Have you bought the documentary, brother? Have you bought the documentary? If you have not bought the documentary, please go to searchforuhuru.com. Again, please go to searchforuhuru.com and buy the documentary. Yeah, listen, yes. Willie, have you bought the documentary? We're gonna stay slanging a documentary. Why not? Why wouldn't I? Why would I not slang and promote my own product? Why would I not do that? Listen, this is how we pay the bills. We're going to start running ads here soon as well, offering ads, but, buy the documentary. So go to searchforuhuru.com. Again, please visit search for, I will check it out, Peace Dynast, Goodfella Nella. Go ahead and check it out, brother. You can check it out right now. It will literally take you 10 seconds to buy the documentary. So go to searchforuhuru.com, go to searchforuhuru.com, click on the link, buy the documentary. What you do, you set up a login, username, password, and what you pay for it. You're able to stream the documentary wherever you are at. Again, you are able to stream the documentary wherever you are at. So please go to searchforuhuru.com. Again, please go to searchforuhuru.com. Tours. Listen, we are rolling to Bless You, King. When I am able, I will support you. Queen African, I can't pronounce the Plazdo Hitfa de Keri. Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you. Tours. We are rolling to, we have a number of tours that we're going to next year. So go visit donfo.africa to learn more. Again, visit donfo.africa to learn more. We're going, but we got Senegal coming up in May. Senegal coming up in May for the jazz festival. For the jazz festival in Senegal, is one of the largest jazz festivals in Africa, probably the world, but for sure in Africa is one of the largest jazz festivals. And we all know Africa is the home and the source to jazz. So the best jazz I've heard outside of like I hope your title is not misleading. Well, we'll get into that here in a second. Some of the best jazz I've heard outside of Miles Davis is out of Mali, out of Senegal. So let's not sleep on the jazz coming out of Africa. So guys, we're rolling to Senegal for the Jazz Festival in May. We'd love for you guys to join. Right now, I'm taking 10 people. Again, right now, I'm going to take 10 people to the Jazz Festival in May. So we'd love for you guys to join. So if you're interested in running the Senegal with us in May for the Jazz Festival, hit me up. Go to donfo.africa. Again, visit donfo, DANFO.Africa to learn more. Again, please visit donfo, DANFO.Africa to learn more. And we will love to have you. Again, we will love to have you all join us. It would really mean a lot, especially for those who have not been to Africa before and they're looking to go to Africa for the first time. Come and join us through donfo.Africa for your travel to the continent. With that being said, we're going to jump right into today's topic. Was listening to this impromptu interview of Kanye West. Before we do that, guys, hit the like button. I need you guys to hit the like button again. I need you guys to hit the like button as you come into the chat room. Again, hit the like button as you come into the chat room, and I will greatly appreciate it, family. But yeah, I wanted to watch this. I want us to watch this interview of Kanye West. It's like an impromptu interview of Ye. Again, of Ye, an impromptu. Those jazz drums are heavily African influenced. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the root of jazz is out of the continent. I know that's upsets a lot of my ADOS FBA family, but that's just the reality of it. The best jazz I've heard is by far out of Mali and out of Senegal, but for sure Mali. Outside of Miles Davis. I love Miles Davis. But yeah, that jazz out of Africa, serious. But we're gonna get into this impromptu interview of Kanye West, and he goes into the whole controversy. He speaks on the George Floyd situation, why he put on the MAGA hat. Why, and he brought up something very, 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 very interesting. So if you don't know, Michael Jackson, Prince, they were prescribed with certain medicines. And what Kanye was trying to say was they were trying to misdiagnose him and prescribe him with similar medicines as, shout out to African Wahala, as Prince and Michael Jackson. Because, those medicines, they killed Michael Jackson and Prince for the most part. But they were trying to prescribe him with the same, I guess, treatment or medicines. In reality, what he was saying was he was just exhaustion. So with Michael Jackson, with Prince, could have just been exhaustion and then misdiagnosed. So that was interesting. So he got into that. So let's get into the interview and break it down play by play. Then I'll open up the lines. And then at 4:00, I have to hop on a call. So we'll probably be here at about 3:45. So because 4:00, I gotta hop on a call. Basically, we're going to do a meet and greet for everyone who is going to Sierra Leone next month for the citizenship ceremony. Again, for the citizenship ceremony, which will be next month. You know, we're going to have some new Sierra Leoneans. So let me grab my passport. Here we go. Bam. We're going to have some new Sierra Leoneans next month, November. Again, next month, November, we're going to have some new Sierra Leoneans. So taking a group next month. Hopefully they'll do another ceremony in April. It has not been confirmed yet. But again, hopefully they do another ceremony in April. But once again, it has not been confirmed yet. But I'm still taking a group in April to Sierra Leone. Go to donfo.africa to learn more. But let's jump into this video.
Humanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as a collective, such as, especially, but not exclusively. This sounds like a unethical one. What was that? All right, so it says, think about it, that sounds like the type of wording that's in the contracts, right? Indeed. Okay, it says, such as, especially, but not exclusively, the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy or of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal institutions.
But isn't that what you said? That Jews run everything?
Yeah, but that.
So what Kanye is doing right here, he's giving the definition of anti-Semitic. We'll continue, and I'll give my commentary a little bit later. But what was kind of interesting, was if you say that, which is true, that Jews run the entertainment industry and the music industry, that could be considered anti-Semitic, which is weird, which is odd. You know, like prime example, say black folks ran a certain industry, and if somebody said, hey, black folks run this industry, like I wouldn't be offended. I wouldn't call it I wouldn't consider it anti-black. But saying that Jews run the entertainment industry, Hollywood, and the music industry, which is true, and Kanye's about to break it down, it's considered anti-Semitic. But why would anybody be upset over that? Why would that be anti-Semitic? Because like I said, if black folks controlled a certain industry where they called the shots, and people will say, listen, black folks own that, run that, like, why would I be offended? Same way Koreans run or Asians run the black men don't. Okay, so so black men, as far as the bodies, the players, dominate basketball and football. That's not racist. That's not anti-black. That's what it is. Asians dominate hair care. They dominate it. Asians dominate black hair care. They dominate, beauty salons or the nail salons. Is that anti-Asian? That's just the truth. So let's continue. So Kanye's like, I didn't think that was, how was that anti-Semitic?
Actually is considered to be anti-Semitic.
Right.
So I didn't realize that it was anti-Semitic to say, hey, I have a Jewish attorney, I have a Jewish record label, I have a Jewish contractor, I have a. Do you regret your statements?
Are the statements you think you should be walking back? I mean, considering.
What do you mean walking back?
Well, backing up off of them. I mean, the thing is, you've lost a lot of endorsements. People are dropping you. You're getting, vilified. I mean, you might think you're right, but I think, there's a whole world out there that's condemning you for what you said.
Okay, so this right here is a chart of Universal Studios, 20th Century Fox, ABC News, CBS
So Kanye has a chart that just pretty much proves his point.
News, Columbia Pictures, Warner Brothers, ESPN Sports, Fox News, Washington Post, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, MTV Music Television, Nickelodeon, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, Comedy Central, NBC Entertainment, Google. What else do we have? Disney, ABC Kids and Family, YouTube, Los Angeles Times, Discovery Network, Paramount Pictures, Facebook, Huffington Post, Yahoo, Marvel, Hulu, Cosmopolitan, Time, Touchstone, Associated Press, Pixar, Miramax, HBO, New York Post, Lucas Arts, MSNBC, DreamWorks Animation. Now, the thing is, I skipped over maybe about 5 of them because it was just unclear on this list. The red are the executives that are Jewish at these companies.
Do you think they stuck together when they heard what you said? Is that what happened?
Well, what I said is, hey, you know, I've had experiences where it felt like I was being teamed up on, and I didn't realize that that term would be considered to be anti-Semitic. So I had a mediation with Adidas today, and I think Adidas felt like because everyone else was ganging up on me that they had the right to just take my designs, and I feel like right now I feel like that was in Christianity we don't say karma, we say you reap what you sow. And I feel like this is God humbling me right now because there's two things that are happening. A lot of times when I would say, oh, I'm the richest black man, it would be a defense that I would use for the mental health conversation. To say, oh, you guys say I'm crazy, but look at this, I made money.
That's what I said.
But that is not godlike to be showing off. So if it's not godlike, then God will take that because it's all the church's money, right? So what's happening right now is I'm being humbled. Another thing that's happening is by me being burned to the flesh every single day, it's actually proving what I had to say. So when I went to the mediation, what I want to say is like black people are like, okay, Lex Friedman got you to apologize. Pierce Morgan got you to apologize to the Jews, but you never apologized to us about the George Floyd comment that made us feel bad. Now the thing is, okay, I see that video as a black person, it hurts my feelings, and I know that police do attack, and America is generally racist. And I understand that when we got to say Black Lives Matter, that the idea of it made us feel good together as a person, as a people, right? When let me say it so the soundbite is better for you guys. When the idea of Black Lives Matter came out, it made us come together as a people. Now afterwards, yes, there were some things where the money went. There were some things where it was used in order to push us to the Democratic vote. There were people behind and involved. That happened, but the general feeling. So
Everything he's saying is correct about Black Lives Matter. He's telling the truth. The Black Lives Matters was used to push us to the Democratic vote. Well, it didn't push me there, but it was used to push us to the black vote. I mean, for black folks to vote Democrat. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, the company that was handling Black Lives Matters donations, I think it was a company called Act Blue. Yeah, it was Act Blue. So that's the truth. And Act Blue were shields for the Democratic Party. Yeah, so that there's no lie in that. Act Blue were shields for the Democratic Party.
So when I said that, and I questioned the death of George Floyd, it hurt my people. It hurt the black people. So I want to apologize to hurting them because right now God has shown me by what Adidas is doing and by what the media is doing, I know how it feels to have a knee on my neck now.
See, oh, you smart as shit.
So I thank you, God, for humbling me and letting me know how it really felt. Because how could the richest black man ever be humbled other than to be made to not be a billionaire in front of everyone off of one comment? That actually, if you look at the definition of DEFCON, it means to get extra defense, which obviously I must have needed.
Yeah.
I must have needed that extra defense.
Are you worried you ruined your legacy, Kanye?
How?
Frank?
Yeah,
Well,
stop.
I'm not worried. I'm just not worried, period. God is alive. Amen. God runs the world. Amen. You know, God even runs Hollywood. Amen. God is alive. And he's using me right now. He chose me for such a time like this to basically for the media to put their knee on my neck, for Adidas to put their knee on my neck. All I ever wanted at Adidas, I left Nike because Nike wouldn't give me a percentage for my shoes, and I had the Red October. And my girlfriend at the time was pregnant, and I needed to get some money. Because if I was the kid that just had the red shoes, I could have never been a black man wearing a red hat.
Right.
When the like Nike would have shut me down immediately, right?
Right.
But because Adidas was a German company, it gave me a little bit more room to be able to express myself and to actually have a political opinion as an American. That I wasn't forced into a political opinion because of the color of my skin. Now let's talk about the red hat, and let's talk about the similarities to the White Lives Matter t-shirt. The thing about the red hat that drove me to a point of exhaustion, which was misdiagnosed by I'm not going to say what race, what people, doctor, and what hospital, and what media went to. We know I can't say that. It was a Jewish doctor that diagnosed me of having a disorder that would have had me on medication right now. At a time like this, if I was on medication right now, then one pill could have been swapped out and it would be Michael Jackson and Prince all over again. But because I didn't take the misdiagnosis and I didn't take the
So now he's getting into the misdiagnosis as far as the them saying he was crazy, or I guess they said he had some mental issues, but they were trying to give him, I guess, some medicine, but he didn't take the medicine because it was just him. He was just tired. He was just exhausted. So I guess they were trying to confuse exhaustion with having a mental lapse, I guess. So this is bigger than Ye. It's about groupthink. We just watched a man deal with the after effects of a thought crime. Social credit system coming soon. Listen, they're already doing a social credit system. PayPal's trying to do it, Woke Will. Literally, PayPal is trying to make it if you say something, for the most part, that they disagree with, because it's so subjective in regards to what is hate. I mean, obviously we know what's hate, but now they're trying to, or we know what's hate speech, but they're trying to move the goalposts now to where, I mean, just if you just disagree with anybody or anything, especially on the left, you know, they're gonna try to frame it as hate speech. So now PayPal wants to make it where they could fine you $2,500 by saying hate speech. But there's no like guidelines on what hate speech is. Like, we know they'll come out here say anything that's racially, you know, N-word or anything like that. I mean, people should know that, but now they're making it where if I have a disagreement on what gender is, that could be considered hate speech. So we're in weird times right now.
A medication, I'm able to speak to you guys clear of thought and transparently. Now let me talk about the red hat. Wearing the MAGA hat, the way that Hollywood's political agenda attacked me and put me to a point of exhaustion was death by 1,000 cuts. Everyone would say something to me, from a driver to my ex-wife, to Adidas. Everyone would say something. So when I wore that White Lives Matter, I said, I'm not going through this again. I'm not going. Hey, y'all gonna leave me alone about my t-shirt. Because what's the point of having influence and having money and people could come up and just pinch you?
But don't you think having influence, you have a responsibility?
And that's the responsibility that I'm taking right here.
And don't you think
That's why you asked that question.
But don't you think it's dangerous rhetoric to be anti-Semitic, to say all lives matter or white lives matter? Come on, no, I'm asking. I'm asking.
Let me answer.
I'm asking an honest question.
Why is saying white lives matter anti-Semitic? That's what you
No,
just
I'm not
asked.
saying that's anti-Semitic.
No, you just said that.
No, and I
But you
misspoke. But I'm
you-
saying
No,
to
you
walk
didn't.
around
That was a
with.
Freudian slip.
I'm trying to correct myself.
Okay,
So I'm saying
yourself.
to walk around with
Do you
white lives
want
matter.
to walk back that statement?
Exactly.
Sure, I'll walk.
You got
I'll
the
walk.
chance to. You don't have the influence of responsibility.
Do you think maybe that? Do you think maybe that?
But I'm saying, you're wearing the White Lives Matter shirt.
Come on, walk.
And Black Lives Matter, and a lot of people think that you're being anti-Black by saying
No, how?
Come on, man.
In America, Black people don't take all the rights that we have that are actually given to us.
And that's true.
Because we weren't given what we were promised in the first place, which was the 40 acres. Instead, we were given
And the mule.
and a mule. Instead, we were given projects and bad food and posters of Oprah Winfrey, and also Planned Parenthood. People said to me multiple times, visit the Holocaust Museum. I said, visit our Holocaust Museum. It's called Planned Parenthood. 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust, and I am sorry for your losses. 20 million Blacks died to abortion, and Planned Parenthood was made by Margaret Sanger with the real KKK. Okay, it says, such as a special Black man wearing a. And I didn't. That's what you just asked.
I'm not saying that's
Guys, my bad. I accidentally rewinded. But no, what's interesting though, did you know W.E. Du Bois, is it Mary McLeod Bethune? Am I saying it right? But who founded Bethune-Cookman College in Florida? Is it Mary McLeod Bethune? I think her name is. And I want to say the NAACP were also supported Margaret Sanger. Again, supported Margaret Sanger. So guys, let me hold on one second. Let me pronounce her name correct. I don't want to butcher her name. Mary McLeod Bethune. Mary McLeod Bethune. And W. Du Bois actually supported Margaret Sanger. Martin Luther King Jr. also supported Margaret Sanger. A lot of people don't know that. So I know Kanye brought up the Klan, but you have Black folks that supported her as well.
No, you just said that.
No, and I
But you
misspoke. But I'm
you-
saying
No,
to
you
walk
didn't.
around
That was a
with.
Freudian slip.
I'm trying to correct myself.
Okay,
So I'm saying
yourself.
to walk around with
Do you
white
want
lives
to
matter.
walk back that statement?
Exactly.
Sure, I'll walk.
You got
I'll
the
walk.
chance to. You don't have the influence of responsibility.
Do you think maybe that? Do you think maybe that?
But I'm saying, you're wearing the White Lives Matter shirt.
Come on, walk.
And Black Lives Matter, and a lot of people think that you're being anti-Black by saying
No, how?
Come on, man.
In America, Black people don't take all the rights that we have that are actually given to us.
And that's true.
Because we weren't given what we were promised in the first place, which was the 40 acres. Instead, we were given
And the mule.
And a mule. Instead, we were given projects and bad food and posters of Oprah Winfrey, and also Planned Parenthood. People said to me multiple times, visit the Holocaust Museum. I said, visit our Holocaust Museum. It's called Planned Parenthood. 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust, and I am sorry for your losses. 20 million blacks died to abortion, and Planned Parenthood was made by Margaret Sanger with the real KKK as population control. Margaret Sanger is a eugenics and is working today. The number one cause of death for black people in America is abortion. The most dangerous place for a black man today, or black baby, black woman, is in their mother's stomach. And that is a programming that's pushed through. I got a new.
Somebody in chat room says that this is you need to elaborate on those accusations. Where's the context? That's just right-wing rhetoric. Why is it right-wing? What I'm starting to notice now, whenever you make a comment in regards to the black community and it's truth and it's factual, for some reason it turns into, and you don't sugarcoat it and you don't make excuses about it, and you're not unapologetic about the statements, all of a sudden it turns to right-wing rhetoric. Like I don't get that.
The word for 2024, the red media. That is the red media. If you go to Apple right now, go to Apple Music. Let's load up the top 10 songs. I guarantee you they're promoting black serial killing. Absolutely. Not just one. They're promoting black. The red media is making money off of blacks being serial killers to each other. Also misogynistic. The red media is making money off of that. And God sees it. But I understand, and I'm not judging, because the oppressed becomes the oppressor. And it is our time now. Blacks are coming into money. We are not scared anymore. And I showed you that I crossed that line. They tried to bankrupt me. They tried to say I was crazy, and I'm alive. We haven't had a full black community since the gentrification of Harlem and Black Wall Street, which was torn down. But I know my brothers, my engineers, my architects, my farmers are gonna rise up. And if it meant they had to take me and drag me like Emmett Till in front of everyone because I whistled, I know my brothers, my engineers, my architects, my scientists, my doctors are going to rise up and create a power that can make sure that we're not separated like we are by the red media. That we're never in a situation where off of one tweet, they could take the most influential black person in the world and run him to the ground. When you see a documentary surviving Bill Cosby, surviving R. Kelly, surviving anybody, the red media made the documentary. I've never seen a black media make a documentary on a Jewish person.
They put you where you at now.
Yeah. Well, God put me right here in front of you guys. At my daughter's game. Jamie Lee Curtis said, I hope they take his children away. They want to take my children away. Today, I was just thinking, as I was looking at my account, as Cohen Resnick hid $40 million of bills from me for just a time like this. This is the first year where I managed to keep my account above 100 million until I got hit with $27 million of taxes last week. Then my payroll got cut by Adidas immediately, which was against the contract. And then I flew 2 members of Cohen Resnick in last night, and they exposed the extra 40 million that they have been hiding from me of bills. What I'm saying is I'm being honest to you guys. I've been humble, and I have no reason to lie. My family was taken away from me. My reputation has been smeared. So let's close with a prayer. Father God, thank you. Thank you for keeping me alive. Thank you for the voice Thank you for the clarity. Thank you for the experience. And thank you for the love. Because even though the real hate is what's happening on the media, and the idea of DEF CON was to get protected for a time like this, let's lead with love. I have no association to any hate group. If any hate happens upon any Jewish person, it is not associated, because I am demanding that everyone walk in love. Even though there's been things that have happened wrong to me that made me want to speak up, that you guys saw in the past 2 weeks. You saw the power. You saw Ari Emanuel come out in public and ask, if that happened in public, what do you think happened in private? And what do you think happened in private to so many people for so many years? But what I'm telling everyone, no matter what background you are, no matter what socioeconomic class you are, walk with love right now. Walk, do what God would want. What would Jesus do? Walk with love, spread happiness. I thought that I wasn't gonna be like MLK and stand there. There's times I felt very Malcolm X, but for some reason, God has called me to love.
Spread love, spread happiness. Listen, I love you all. I love everyone. I love everybody in the chat room. I love you all. Listen, spread love, spread happiness. Spread love, spread happiness. How can we disagree with that?
Love and to ask for love for everyone. It's time for us just to love, because love is the answer. It is the only way. Gandhi said, someone who was actually considered to be a racist, right? Gandhi said, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. Jesus, Father God, spread the love, put the love in our hearts, and know that we are not each other's enemy, but we're all children of you.
Judy, you make a point. You make a good point, Judy, but you got to understand, Kanye's done several gospel albums before like this whole controversy happened. Like he was already doing gospel albums. So, but you do make a good point. You do make a good point.
And you can bring this world to a peaceful place on earth as it is in heaven. In Jesus' name, amen. Love you guys. Good night. Good night.
You're the man. We love you.
I'm done with my energy stuff. Thank you, brother. No, I respect that.
How you doing, Kanye? Good to see you, man.
Hey, you guys gotta get out of here.
All right, man.
You guys gotta get out of here.
All right.
You gotta
Do what God would want. What would Jesus do? Walk with love, spread happiness. I thought that I wasn't gonna be like MLK and stand there. There's times I felt very Malcolm X, but for some reason, God has called me to love and to ask.
All right, guys, listen, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. Do me a favor, hit the like button. Listen, there's 400 people in here. Again, there's 400 people in here. There's 400 people in here. I need y'all to hit the like button. Again, I need y'all to hit the like button as you come to the chat room. But I'm gonna put the link in the chat room. If you disagree with them, you're more than welcome to call in. But we're gonna take a quick commercial break. Again, we're going to take a quick commercial break. But again, if you disagree, you're more than welcome to call in. Click on the link in the chat room.
Hello, I'm Dynast Amir.
So I reached out to another friend of mine. I said, look, you know, I need to go on vacation somewhere. Where should I go? He said, go to Africa. And not only am I going to go, I'm going to explore a new country. So I went to Tanzania, South Africa, Namibia, Mali, Senegal, Morocco, Liberia, Namibia, Kenya, the Voodoo Festival in Ouida, Gambia, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire. Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria. It's been a beautiful experience, just learning more about our culture, our indigenous culture. So Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. I'm in search of my roots. In finding that, I would experience my Uhuru, which is freedom.
Till next time, Dynasty Amir, I'm out.
Listen, if you have not bought the documentary In Search of Uhuru, again, if you have not bought the documentary In Search of Uhuru, I will not be in DC for the reparation rally on next weekend. Yes, I will not be there next weekend for the reparation rally. I will not be there. But if you have not bought the documentary In Search of Uhuru, again, if you have not bought the documentary, please go to searchforuhuru.com and buy the documentary. Let me bring AM on here. AM, go ahead.
Hey, what's up? Great program, great topic.
Thank you.
It's I think this is really confusing. I think that a lot of people will just use what Kanye West has said in the past to really make judgments. I still don't approve of what he said towards his community, but this is obvious. This is planned. Him doing all that anti-Semitic stuff was planned because he wanted to get out of his Yeezy deal. He wanted to get out of the Adidas deal. He wanted to basically get out of most of the deals he was in because he said he felt like a slave. Like he felt like he didn't have creative control. Like he wasn't the leader or he wasn't the manager. He felt like an employee, or he just felt like the face, but not really making any important decisions. So I believe that him saying slavery was a choice, which is stupid, and him wearing the all white matters t-shirts, and even him marrying Kim Kardashian was all ways that he could show the other community that, he could be trustworthy and he could be one of them. And when he realized that these execs did not see him the same way, that's when it probably just hit him that saying all these things about white life matter and all that is not important. It didn't work for his plan. So I believe that even now, him saying all these things, lashing out, is intentional, because at the same time, people could be like, "Oh no, this is all him being crazy." But in that other interview, he basically just let people know that he knows what he's doing. He's aware of what he's doing. He's also trying to speak to the Black community. What the Black community decides to do with him going forward is their choice. I don't really know what they'll do, but I also believe that they shouldn't be so harsh on him, because none of us are in his position. None of us are
No, well,
billionaires.
you got to understand the Black community. The Black community is harder on those who
Yeah.
tell the truth. Not saying everything that Kanye says is true, but they're harder on those that tell the truth versus those who lie. You know, I mean, case in point, Kevin Samuels versus what's the other guy's name? What was the other guy's name that just lied to women all the time? It's Kevin Samuels. Women
Derek
hated
Jackson.
Derek
Oh yeah.
Jackson
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
Derek Jackson. You know, so the black community wants to be coddled. You know what I mean? That's what they. I'm being serious. They want to be coddled. But go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, I have some strong feelings about Kanye, and I've had strong feelings about Kanye for a long time. I just think the brother's completely lost, and he's nobody to be followed. Following him would be, is you follow him at your own peril. He does have mental issues, but besides that, he's never too crazy not to find a way to say something insulting or cutting about Black people. And then when he ends up allowing himself to be a tool of the white supremacist system, and they break you like they inevitably do, now you want to run home and talk to Black people. No thanks. Yes, you're hitting on some few things here and there that may have a ring a little bit true, but again, he's directionless. He's not doing this on purpose, because if he was doing this on purpose, he would have had a backup plan. He had no backup plan. He went ahead, got himself cut off from his paymasters, and then was running over at Skechers trying to get in with somebody else, instead of doing what he claims to know now, which is that if he'd been better off listening to Sway and doing it on his own, with his own money, with his own backing, without having to have a paymaster behind him to push products. He's all over the place, and I feel sorry for him. But then again, I don't, because anybody who chases down a Kardashian to join the Kardashian Corporation after you become famous is not somebody who I will trust their judgment.
I could agree. I could agree with that.
So that's just where I am with him. He's a complete and utter mess. But I will defend him on one thing. We should all be alarmed by the whole J.P. Morgan Chase thing, where they pretty much cut him off from banking. That is crazy. That you could possibly say something that they could tell you can't bank here anymore. Not cool, and it's a bad precedent. But other than that, he's on his own with all this, because he made this mess.
Go ahead, Sekou.
Yes. Hello, Prince. My is from the last interview he had with Pierre Morgan. So I just wanted you to ask you to clarify, because the last statement you made, you said whenever someone says the truth, people call it right-wing rhetoric. So when Kanye West says the most oppressed group of people in America is the white male heterosexual, is that true, or is the right-wing rhetoric?
I disagree, but I mean, it wouldn't be right-wing rhetoric, because I don't even hear right-wing people saying that.
I heard them say that. This is the
no. I've heard them say that, but me personally, I've never heard a right-wing white man saying that they are the most oppressed group in America. I haven't heard it from any what you would consider
Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson says that all the time. These are their talking points.
Show me. Put the link in the chat room with Tucker Carlson saying that white men are.
I just call in here. You don't expect me to go bring out all.
No. Well, yeah, but if you say that Tucker Carlson has said that, then I just provide the link of Tucker Carlson saying that that the white man is the most oppressed person in America.
Okay. I don't have the video here with me. Also, the White Lives Matter t-shirt. What is the justification for that? Since you saying that this guy, Kanye West, is okay, he's being brilliant, he's thinking well, he's trying to fight for Black people. How the White Lives Matter t-shirt is a struggle for Black people?
I mean, I didn't agree with the t-shirt. I mean, him wearing a t-shirt, but do white lives matter? I mean, Sekou, you're in Canada right now, right?
Yes.
So you left Liberia, a black
Yes.
country, to go
Yes.
to a white country. So do white lives matter?
Of course. Are there not white people in Liberia? You've never been there?
Oh, come on, Sekou. Okay, I said
No,
not
you are
yet.
asking us if it's a mistake for me to be here. Well, white people are in my country too.
Right, but again, Liberia is a black country, okay?
Sure.
You left a black country to go to a white country called Canada. So do white lives matter?
No, the question, I don't understand the spirit of your question, because is it because I came to a white country?
I mean, you're proving white lives matter. Yes, you came to a white country.
No, there's a context. There is a context in which Black Lives Matter moves in America. We understand the context in which it is used in America.
Yeah, in America, Black Lives Matter was one of the biggest nonprofit grifts ever.
Not the organization, the context of that name in America.
It was a grift. It was a hustle. Yeah, Black Lives Matter, but I don't need a T-shirt to say Black Lives Matter. I don't need. Listen, okay, black people were wearing Black Lives Matters T-shirt to get validation from white people. I don't need white people to validate my life.
How is that a validation to say my life matters? Stop killing my people.
Why do I need to wear the T-shirt? Why do I need? I don't need white people.
No, this is a non-violent. This is the non-violent culture that they are trying to continue to protest. That's how Martin Luther King got you remove the segregation. It was through marching and creating awareness and banners. So these people are continuing the culture of this non-violent protest in America. It's in American history when people want to change.
Sekou. BLM was not a non-violent protest. BLM along with Antifa came in our communities and burnt shit down.
I am not here to defend Antifa or whatever. I'm trying to say
but you mentioned BLM and you put them in the same category being non-violent as MLK Jr., which is not true.
I said the ideology of wearing a T-shirt called Black Lives Matter. You said, why should you wear a T-shirt? That's what I was trying to explain.
No, what I'm saying is I don't need to wear a T-shirt to get validation of my Black life from anybody. I don't need the T-shirt.
It's not a validation. So when you struggle,
it's a validation. Yes, it is.
So it's white life matter. That's not that. What does that stand for?
Like he said, he wore the T-shirt to bring awareness to he wore the T-shirt to bring awareness to the hypocrisy behind how the organization was able to use BLM to run off with $90 million.
So explain the logic to me. Explain that to me logically, because if I wear Black Lives T-shirt, I'm trying to validate white lie. That's what you said.
Yeah, exactly. It was validating to white people. Oh, please, white people, Black Lives Matter. Oh my God, leave us alone. It was validating. That's what it was. That's what it was.
So if you wear like in Nigeria, when people wear NSAS and they were protesting against Nigerian government and they wear
that is completely different. Saying NSARS versus wearing a BLM T-shirt, completely different.
How is it different? Is it not the same protest because the two countries are different?
No, it's one thing to say NSARS, then there's another thing to say Black Lives Matter. Like I don't need to
and police brutality. What does it mean? I participated in Black Lives Matter protest here in Canada. You go there, you read the entire manifesto about any police brutality. That's the goal.
Right. And what's changed? What has changed? These communities have been worse off.
If you protest and you're not getting your goal, it doesn't mean your protest is wrong.
Here we go. Jonathan Miller, NSARS has an objective. BLM had no objective.
Really?
No,
really. But BLM didn't have an objective, and it had zero agenda. And that's the reason why other groups were able to take it over and to make it in their image of what they wanted to. So in the end, BLM became an LGBTQ organization.
Now, all those things you can say, but then because you don't want LGBT, I get that, but that's not, you can't deny that the philosophy behind Black Lives Matter was to end police brutality. Be honest
No,
and say that.
Wait, wait. How are you gonna end police brutality
Hold
by
on,
saying? Okay, sorry.
Castro, 1 second. Castro, 1 second. I'm sorry. The philosophy of BLM. All right, this is coming from the leaders. They used BLM, the murder and death of Black men being killed by police, to further their LGBTQ objective and philosophy. That's what it was. They just used it was a front, right, to further the LGBTQ agenda, and they were very clear on that on their website. They were anti-nuclear family, anti-patriarchy. I mean, it was a fraud.
Can you put that up, Diners, Amir, that they are anti-nuclear family?
Oh, they took it down, but you know what I'm gonna do? Let me pass it to Costa. Hold on, I'm gonna pass it to Costa, and because right before this past presidential election, they removed that from their website, but they had it on their website. They're anti-nuclear family and they're pro-queer, non-traditional family, some other BS that had on there. That's what they were about.
All right, go ahead.
And then Candace Owens even proved with receipts. I don't care how you feel about her. The amount of money they were giving to LGBTQ organizations, meanwhile their local chapters were struggling. That's why their local chapters are presently suing the main BLM. That's just all documented.
And that's what happens when you create organizations without any hierarchy or structure. That we've allowed white liberals to tell us that we can create organizations without any structure, and then they can go ahead and manipulate them and maneuver them into whatever direction they want to move them into. And that's what happened with BLM. That's what happened with Occupy Wall Street. That's what happened to all those left-leaning organizations that were bragging about the fact they didn't have any central leadership.
Well, I would say that's going to happen to any organization, period, because our organization, whatever we put together, is not going to be bigger than any white supremacist organization. So they'll always be able to infiltrate. Now, Black Lives Matter, Dynasty is completely right on that. Black Lives Matter, it actually started as a legitimate grievance that back in, I want to say 2015, when Mike Brown got killed. That's really when Black Lives Matter really kind of, took off. And the original member, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I said exactly. Go ahead. So sorry.
Okay, yeah. The original members were killed, and the movement was hijacked. And when they hijack the movement, all of a sudden it becomes Black Lives Matter. But what about queers? And what about trans? So my question to you, Sekou, is Black Lives Matter, but to who? Because Black Lives Matter it don't matter when we killing each other. So why are we pleading with white folks to stop killing us?
That's not an excuse.
With people, you're supposed to make people stop killing you. You don't plead with somebody and say, please stop killing me.
No. Okay, if I'll respond to that, white folk kill white folks. Okay, we know all over the world. If it is happening right now,
so what? Sekou, what does that have to do with anything, bro?
So what?
Let me end the answer. Let me just answer him very quickly. In the United States, a country, and everybody there that identify as citizens, they pay taxes to be protected by the government. You like it or not, you don't pay your taxes to protect yourself. You pay taxes for the government to protect you. So if the same government in uniform continue to shoot certain group of people because of their look indiscriminately, they are in prison indiscriminately.
Bro,
they
half
don't
the
get
niggas that they shoot, they don't even pay taxes.
No, wait. Even what you call about, and I don't want to use the word you use, the N-word, say they're killing each other, what have you. If you are a social worker, you can understand people at certain social location as well. There is certain mentality associated with their conditions. So you cannot just wake up and you don't consider the other factors, and you just say because Black people just wake up, they love to shoot each other. They don't love to shoot each other. You don't look at the social conditions, the mental and the social economic conditions they are in.
That's an excuse.
That brought these things into fruition. You are just looking at the result.
I live in Chicago.
That's an excuse. That's an excuse, Sekou. We've been using the same, the condition excuse, and we're still using it in 2022. That's an excuse.
We've been here for 400 years.
It's this excuse, Sekou. Sekou, a black man killing a black man and blaming the white man or social economic conditions is an excuse. Because I know plenty of black men that grew up in the same conditions that didn't decide to pick up a gun and kill another black man.
I never killed no black man.
Yeah, you
Y'all
are, because
confusing the
you are an
man.
exception. You cannot
He's trying to be a
use
good
that.
ally with the ADOS people. You guys are shut his ass down.
Sekou is an excuse.
No, Diners, it's not just an excuse. There's something we call intergenerational trauma. It's scientific.
You're not switching up stories, bro.
Oh
Okay,
my
so
God.
Sekou, let me
excuses.
ask you, gosh, 1 second. Sekou, so explain why, fresh out of slavery, okay, during Jim Crow, during Reconstruction, explain why black people were not killing each other at the amount of rate that we are now.
No, I don't have a data to study to know exactly what
didn't
happened.
happen. It's an excuse. It's an excuse.
Yeah,
but
no.
Let me pass the part of my presence. Go ahead. Part of my presence. Go ahead. Let me stop.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say that he's trying to be a good ally. He's African. He's trying to link up with the ADOS and support us based on what he's seen on television. So I can't fault him for drinking the Kool-Aid, but at the same time, I think it's important that we all understand that Black Lives Matter was fed to us, right? It was force fed to us. We saw the white people spray painting and vandalizing black neighborhoods. We saw the amount of non-black people that were involved in these protests doing all kind of subverted stuff, giving black people money to destroy things, giving bricks to people. So we've all seen those things, right? What I'd like to know, though, is who were the ones that were actually donating to Black Lives Matter? Because as far as I knew,
it was all white folks. It was all white folks.
Exactly. Because as far as I knew, I didn't know you could even donate to Black Lives Matter. I didn't know they were receiving donations. So I like to know who these people were.
So part of my presence. So on their website, they had a link for donations, and it went to a Democratic organization called Act Blue. And Act Blue, they're nothing but Democratic shields. So
yes, and that's why I remember there was more of a political thing where, in my opinion, I think that they funneled money that was used for the Biden campaign through Black Lives Matter. That's how I look at it. So the way how I look at it, everything that happened and transpired with George Floyd and everything else that came after that, they pretty much used those moments to fund this campaign, because the main point of all of that, the end point, the end game was getting Joe Biden in because he's better than Trump, or anybody is better than Trump. We need to get Trump out because of all of the things that were happening in society at that time. So all it was just a way to get people into power that shouldn't have been in power to begin with, as we're seeing now.
Honestly, I don't believe in conspiracy theories, except I have evidence of the facts. But like the brother said, was it Kashta Zulu or so, that the Black Lives Matter started as a legitimate organization fighting to end police brutality. That's where I wanted
to say, cool. It wasn't an organization.
Thank you.
It wasn't.
It was never an organization.
I said a legitimate grievance, meaning people from the grassroots legitimately were protesting Black Lives Matter with signs. That don't mean they were organized.
That's exactly my point. It was never an organization. It would start off as a legitimate hashtag and a legitimate ideal, right? But it was never a real organization, and that's how it was so easily taken over and co-opted.
So what's the approach you guys are proposing for police brutality and the killing of Black people daily in America?
Change our behavior.
Okay, well, Mike.
So you are the problem. The victims are the problem.
Sekou, police are not killing Black men in America on a daily. It's not happening. But
there's no statistics for that. We can check it.
But Sekou, but Black men are killing Black men every day in America on a daily.
Oh man,
that's the reality.
Yeah, Pookie just shot Ray Ray on the corner.
See now this is the thing you have to understand. I think Will Smith, said it best when he said that, there used to be a time when we were getting our behinds kicked and getting killed by the police every day. That was happening at one time. But what's happened is since technology has come in, you're seeing more of the incidents now than you ever did before, and so it gives you the idea that it's happening more often than it is. Not saying
Facts.
it's not saying that it's not happening, but at the same time, we didn't have the reason why we had the first LA riots was because, as I recall, is because to have a video camera on location for something was so hard that we couldn't believe that, we were like, if he can't get these guys convicted based on a videotape, who's going to have a video camera in your pocket all the time, right? And then technology advanced, and now we have video cameras in our pocket all the time. And so we see these things more and more often. And we think that is something that happens every day when it's not happening every day. It happens often, happens too often, but it's not happening every day.
That's facts. That's facts.
Alan makes a point, and I want to say something too about the Black Lives Matter organization. I remember when the whole thing was popping off, and I live in DC, and in DC they come here to march a lot. You know what I mean? And this was during the height of the Black Lives Matter marches, and I didn't go to the march, but I was working around the area, so I would see the people who were marching, and it was a lot of white people in those groups, a lot of different non-black people who thought marching and wearing Black Lives Matter t-shirts was like the biggest way to help black people, and they felt proud of that shit. But me looking at them from as a black person, looking at the marches and the people who were pretending to stand up for black lives, I kind of understand what Kanye said about the Black Lives Matter and White Lives Matter t-shirt thing. Like, they thought they were doing something so big for black people, when in reality, these are people who are probably racist themselves in their private lives, who are just putting up a front as allies to black people for some kind of feel-good reason. I will say, though, the one good thing that Black Lives Matter as a movement and organization did do is bring us police, what do you call those, the body cams. That's the biggest and best thing that Black Lives Matter did. Those body cams are gonna save a lot of people in the future who were treated a certain way, but didn't have proof of the way they were treated. Aside from that, the Black Lives Matter thing was like it was co-opted by white liberals and non-black liberals who wanted to pretty much control the narrative behind Black Lives Matter.
All right, go ahead, Al. Unmute yourself, Al.
Good evening or good afternoon over there to everyone on the platform. Basically my take on BLM, as I said, when they just came out, I thought, wow, what an amazing, organization, and these people out there, supporting the black movement and stuff like that. But I think, to be honest, I'm going to go further and say BLM is the worst thing that happened to black people in the last few years, to be honest. I think BLM have taken our freedom back from us. In fact, if anything, they have generated more hate towards black people, in the West than it used to be. So in terms of BLM bringing cameras out there for the police, that's not. I don't think that's is during BLM. That's already start happening in America, in terms of police having to have a body cam. But yeah, BLM is the worst thing that happened to us, man. There's no point bigging it up.
Al, are you Somali by any chance?
No, I'm not. I'm West African.
Go ahead, Theo.
Hey, good evening. Good afternoon, everyone. So,
good evening.
I just want to critique a little bit, because I can't see anything that BLM has done wrong that has had a negative effect, except that it has made a lot of people uncomfortable, right? Especially on the right. And it seems the criticism of BLM has more to do with who is supporting BLM than it does the actions of BLM. So it seems as if liberals started a food drive, right, to feed the homeless, or LGBT started a food drive to feed the homeless. Some people wouldn't show up to support because LGBTQA, however you want to say it, is included, or liberals are included. So the gripe with BLM seems to be, or the idea of BLM itself seems to have more to do with who you can find supporting it, who's putting weight behind it, right? So it happens to be that, you know, some of the people at the forefront of LGBTQ, some of the people at the forefront are liberals, and it's making a lot of people on the right uncomfortable. It's probably making people in your workplace that you know uncomfortable. And some people, I'm sure, have been confronted in the workplace, either directly or indirectly, and has had to deal with that uncomfortable ability that you receive from white people, right? Which someone alluded to earlier, which is that BLM has caused more hate towards Black people. I think that's really the gripe, is that we're trying to be such pleasers that when we see an organization go so hard and it actually does agitate, right? And that agitation comes around and kind of meets us in our workplace or meets us up close and personal, we actually start to push back at that organization because we're feeling some of the pressure now, right? I
completely
so I know you're not going to agree. This is a critique.
No, Theo, I had to mute you. The only pressure that I felt was in my community when BLM and Antifa was burning shit down in our community. All right, the only pressure that I felt was when BLM decided to set up illegal checkpoints in our community and was tearing stuff up. The only pressure that I felt was when BLM, who set up an illegal checkpoint in our community, when a mother and her daughter was trying to, the mother was running late for work. BLM, who had their illegal checkpoint up, shot at the car and killed the daughter. That's the pressure I felt. I didn't feel any pressure at work. I was just fine.
And the only thing I would add to that is a lot of that was not BLM itself, because BLM didn't have any soldiers and we're not Black people. It was an infiltration of Antifa and these other far left militant organizations that pretty much assisted and did a lot of the burning. There video after video you could show during the protests in which you saw white people going around burning things and Black people begging the white people from Antifa not to burn something down because we're going to get blamed for it. And here we are.
Alan, that's not true. I got footage of, there was a lady in Philadelphia, Black-owned business, right when the riot started happening. She was just crying like, I can't, why did they, burn down and loot my Black-owned business? And she was showing security footage, and it was Negroes up in that.
I didn't say that there were no Black people. I'm saying
there was Negroes up in there raising havoc.
I'm not saying it wasn't Black people who were doing that. My point is that I've seen plenty of footage of places where you had white Antifa people wearing all black, burning things, and Black people telling her, no, man, you need to stop doing this. Everything. We're trying to protest this peacefully. There were cities in which Black people were trying to protest the murders of George Floyd peacefully, and they were steady burning things as if they were helping. And then in the end, the people who got the blame were Black people, because BLM became an acronym, a way for them to paint all Black people as something, as part of their group and as part of working with Antifa. So
I agree.
But real quick, let me show this. So this right here, Alan. So this was from during the so there was a dude's name was Rashard Brooks, who in my honest opinion was justly shot. I mean, it wasn't a wrongful shooting. It was, in my honest opinion, it was justified. When he got shot, Negroes started rioting here in Atlanta. And these are the people, and a Wendy's was burnt down along with other
Freddie
businesses.
burnt it down.
And these were the right here. It was a white girl and 2 Negroes.
Yeah, his white girlfriend helped burn it down.
Yeah, but it was these 2 black men. I'm just saying we give these white folks too much credit as if Negroes.
I agree. I agree with both of y'all when it comes to the riots and stuff. I saw white people and black people, but
what
the thing
about
is, like,
Watts?
a lot of black people only get blamed for it. They never really look at the white people who are rioting. And one other thing I want to say about Kanye West is, even though I do agree with some of the points he makes, I'm not confused enough to label him as pro-black, because Kanye West is not.
He's
Kanye
not.
West.
He's not pro.
He's
Yeah,
pro
he-
Kanye.
Kanye West is not pro-black. He cops a lot of pleas. He does this whole "we're all human beings" thing. So there is no race, there is no black and white. And then the next sentence he's talking about black and white. What the
But
fuck?
that certain thing that he said, which obviously got truth in it, but some of it is just gibberish, really. But at the same time, the guy is not stable, is it? As one of the guys said earlier, for him to marry into the Kardashian family, I mean, that says a lot about him, innit, to be honest. So
that was
you gotta look at, a person might talk about, things in the way they should be, at the same time recognizing the way things are. So when someone says, okay, ideally we shouldn't be looking at human beings in these divisions of race, right? Doesn't mean they can't recognize that that's how the world actually does it. So when Kanye talks about his ideals, he might have higher ideals than the reality he has to deal with. You get what I'm saying? And I think that's where people kind of muddy that. Just because this guy, he talks about his ideals, right? But he's living a reality where that reality doesn't live up to that. Even himself, he may not live up to it completely, doesn't invalidate the ideal itself. You get what I'm saying? Those two things can exist at the same time.
Black people who use that "we're all human beings" thing, there is no race, blah blah blah. Most of them are coons as fuck. Like, let's keep it
It's not
real.
that there isn't.
They want
It's
to
that
ignore. They want to ignore the identities that have already been set. You know what I mean?
Already been set, right?
No, I agree with that.
You said it, already been set. But yeah, so there are different descriptions of people. We know that we have different features, but I think when it's talked about, it's coming from an economic and political. When we have to come together as a society and exist as a society globally, right? The world is so small right now, right? These things shouldn't be the things that we judge people by. You shouldn't judge someone by it, because come on, we're talking about black on black crime, right? And I want to say black people aren't killing black people. Wait, let me finish this, because I wanted to say this earlier. Black people aren't killing black people, right? I mean, black people kill black people, but it's not like all black people are killing black people. We have to recognize that there's a small number of people, right? So we aren't killing each other. There's never a we are killing each other, because most of us, I'm sure, have never killed anyone, right? There's a small group of people who do these crimes. And until we can actually get to understand that and start holding individuals accountable for their behavior and not making it like they're one of us, so we have to own it, right? As in, this is what we're doing. We have to be able to push people, right, outside of the box, who are not cooperating or going along with what we see as ideal behavior inside the box, right? And hold those people accountable. Because I think so many people get away with doing, what they do, because at the end of the day, they can scapegoat the whole community.
Yeah, but I mean, for how many years though? Come on, fam. How many years we have to talk about the same thing, black on black, black on black, black on black?
Well, that's my point. That's what I'm trying to tell you now. You don't have to talk about black. You have to talk about criminals on black. Criminals are killing black people, right? Murderers are killing black people.
Those criminals doing it.
That happen to be black.
Well,
that's what I'm telling you. There are murderers out there, bro. There are murderers out there, and you have to treat them like that. Not like they're black first, right? They are
Yeah,
murderers
but
who happen to be black.
I think they're self-hating blacks. Yeah, black people
It
that
might be
don't like
self-hate,
their
but
own.
then that might be what's making them the murderer. But
So, and
at
at
the
the
end of
same
the day,
time, not only that, most of them have. It's not like they got mental problems. At the end of the day, that's just like trying to make it, making excuses up for these people. Not
no,
all of them
bro,
got mental
they're
problems.
murderers.
Some of these killers is social factors, yeah, and these social factors, that's what people need to look at. So some of this is quite deliberate, to be honest, yeah, because they can actually, stay away from that sort of lifestyle. They got the choice. I mean, the average, youth in the West, black youth in the West got so much opportunities compared to black youth in Africa. So why black kids in Africa not out there doing all that bullshit? Look at Liberia and Sierra Leone. We had kids that been growing up in wars. They saw all kind of stuff. Yeah, they used to live in a really nice life. They used to have that middle income, kind of family background. People are working and stuff, and to losing everything. And after the war, we don't have this sort of problems in our countries in West Africa.
What do you mean by all that bullshit?
Well,
You know why? You know why? Because in Africa, if a black person kills a black person, they're a murderer. Wait. They're a murderer.
So why?
They're not gonna call it. They're not gonna say black on black crime in Africa. If a black person killed, you're gonna be labeled as a murderer, and you're gonna have to deal with that
Why is
stigma.
it in the UK or America?
Listen.
Excuses up. Let me just finish.
Listen, no. Let me say this. Let me say this. Because you cut me off, and I gave you time to speak. I just want to say this. I just want to say this. In Africa, if a black person kills a black person, it's not going to be called black on black crime. They're going to be considered a murderer, and they are going to have that stigma on them.
Why didn't we have a lot of them over there then? Why do we end up having most of them over here? And they when we actually had a minority over here.
Wait, most of what?
I don't know what you're saying at this point.
Most of this
there's a lot more killers in Africa, man. Come on. Come on, bro.
It's not that much.
Come on, I'm African myself.
Compared to the US.
Which country? I would say you make a point with Nigeria, maybe. But I mean,
in my country too, there's a lot of African countries.
What country?
Cameroon.
Okay, Cameroon. Okay.
Shit, Somalia. There's a lot of African countries, so we can't just make this an African diaspora thing.
How can you compare?
Hold on, though. Are we really gonna say here that it's a bad thing if people are dying in the country? There is no country on the face of this planet that don't have murderers in it. We shouldn't feel ashamed because
what we're talking about here is the culture.
Hold on, let me finish. No, let me finish. We shouldn't. Here's the problem that I think that we have. We expect more from us than what human beings are capable of doing, and we put that on ourselves. And when we don't meet those expectations, then we get down on ourselves and we attack each other. There is no planet on this earth that does, or a country on this earth doesn't have a murderer on it, or that those people aren't killing each other. So we need to get that out of the way. Let's stop focusing on black crime, because there's white on white crime, there's Asian on Asian crime, there's all kind of crimes that are done towards each other. So leave that alone.
Shit, Russia's.
I don't think the focus should be on that at all.
But what we're trying to say is there's certain type of murder cases that's going on in the West. It's not only in the US, even in the UK, where we have black children's, young children's, involved in all kind of gangs, killing one another. You don't get that in white Caucasian.
Are you sure about that?
Groups.
You don't get violence and crime and gangs?
No, but not as much as you do in black communities in the UK.
Hold on, let me say this. Do you know Tyson Fury? Do you know that he's involved? So do you know that he's involved in the whole Gypsy and Irish gangs and mafias and people around him are getting killed as well?
Here's the thing, Pardon. Here's the thing, Pardon. When you talk about gypsies, they don't claim them. Europeans will not claim gypsies, even though they are European.
They are listen, right? Okay, cut the crap. Gypsies are Irish. You got different kind of gypsies in Europe, right?
Like but get back to your point.
Tyson Fury is an Irish gypsy. Yeah, it's not Romani gypsy because you got two types.
But I bring him up because he's
Tyson Fury is an Irish guy. Yeah, I understand.
Let me just point. I bring weapons. Yeah. Let me finish my point as to why I brought him up. He's a prominent person. He's someone that you could consider as rich, successful, but he's still embroiled in violence, degradation, and everything else, and gangs. So the point I'm making is that it's not thing that's abnormal within the Black community. This happen in all communities. There's violence, murder. You should see in Canada the amount of Punjabi people who are attacking each other's in knots with knives. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. The point I'm making is that
it's not as much as in Black community.
No, you can't say that.
No, I think
you just don't know it.
Violence is overblown. It's really overblown.
You know why it's overblown? Do you know why it's overblown? Because that's all we're fed. If there was an Indian world star, if there was an Indian world, you would see. If there was a white world star, you would see it. But the world star focuses on what? They focus on Black people.
It's not overblown.
Listen. It's not overblown at all. Yeah,
not at all. Black on black.
It's not overblown. It's a problem.
It is overblown.
But it's not. It's not a we are killing each other. There's murderers,
Simple.
and it's a small few people who need to be held accountable for their behavior. You can't, write off the whole group. You can't be on the outside saying, Black people killing. Yes, it happens to be Black people are killing Black people, but we aren't killing each other. It so happened that there are murderers who happen to be Black who are killing other Black people, right? This isn't like everybody. This is everyone in the community is indoctrinated into this behavior, right? But the problem is we all have collectively owned it, right? To the point where people don't proactively hold people accountable for that type of behavior. So they're allowed to get away with it because we take it on as part of our culture. Like this is part of the group thing, but it's not. That's abhorrent behavior, right? That is committed by a few people who need to be held accountable for that behavior. And it happens all over the world. It just so happens in the Black community in the United States of America, it happens way too much by those small few people.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's pass the out. Go ahead, Alvin. Unmute yourself.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate your platform and letting me up and to speak on this for a split second. Black people in the United States are roundabouts 5% of the population. We are represented in the media for violence and criminality at an 80% click, meaning that whenever you see a criminal or some sort of crime being committed on television, 80% of the time it's us. The situation is a economic problem.
Alvin, if I can interject real quick, we're more than 5% of the population here.
6%, but we're overrepresented in the media. It's not
we're
close.
We're like 11% population.
Black men.
Oh, you said Black men. Okay, you said Black men. Okay.
Yeah,
Black
sorry,
men. Okay.
I meant Black men. So we are vastly overrepresented in the media as being violent and criminal, right? So and it kind of ties into what Kanye was kind of alluding to in the first place, because the people that keep plastering our mug shots on the evening news constantly also know that same thing. White people commit crime at the same clip.
There are mugshots of people murdered.
Hold on, brother.
Let the man speak, man. Let the man speak. No one interrupted.
White folks commit crime in the exact same clip. They're just not shown, is what I'm trying to say. We're overrepresented in the media for criminality. Now, I'm not saying that we don't commit crime. Obviously we do. But what I'm saying is that seeing it, we see it more often though. So we think it's a larger problem. One of the gentlemen, and Dinesh, you corrected someone earlier about brothers killing brother, or yes, brothers are actually killing brothers too, but white people are killing white people. They just aren't plastering their mugshots all over the evening news constantly.
Alvin, let me ask you this: who kills each other at a higher rate or per capita?
Oh, if you take the exact same ratios of white people killing each other and Black people killing each other, it's the same. It's an economic issue. Poor people kill each other. It's just whether or not it gets. It's just whether or not it's being shown on the media or not. So we're taking the hit for being completely criminal because that's how they continue to treat us the way that we do. Now, I'm not saying, now, once again, like I said, it's an economic thing. Poor people kill poor people, right? People with 700 scores and rich white people don't rob each other and kill each other in parking lots, right? But you go to the trailer parks, or you go to, or, you know, some of these other areas, they commit crime there too. It's just not what's being shown, right? So, and it's just like this, even though, for example, Black people, once again, Black men, 5% of the population, but we get, you know, arrested or we were represented in prisons at a 40% clip. Well, there's still 60% of crime being done by who? But we don't hear about that, right?
Yep.
So
no, but I think what Kanye was talking about was the actual music. Is a
I know. Well, but it's not just the music, brother. It's not just the music. Like, if you listen to the companies that he was, the media companies that he was naming off, it's not just Sony or the music companies. It was a lot of the other medias that control the media also. Someone decides, I mean, you can look on your own. You can just go scroll through MSNBC or CNN or Fox, and you look at the thumbnails on any of the videos, so on and so forth, and you look at how many Black mugshots you see and how many white mugshots, right? I live in San Francisco. They just busted a huge ring of catalytic converter thefts, right? But you can't find any pictures of the people that, you can find one picture of the people that did it because they were all Asian, right? They intentionally keep criminality from other groups out of the news and out of the media, so that we are the only ones that look like we're the ones committing crimes. Now, I'm not saying that we're not committing crimes. I'm saying that we're overrepresented in the media, which makes it look like we're the only ones committing crimes. White people kill each other at the same clip that we do too. They just don't get talked about.
So I agree with Alvin on that.
Hold on, one mic will pass to Larry.
So
I agree with. Hold on, but with that being said, then how about we not give them any ammunition to stop killing each other? Because I'm not buying the whole poverty.
I don't disagree with that at all, brother. I don't. What I'm saying is just that it's an economic thing, right? Poor people kill poor people.
I'm not buying the economic thing.
No. What I'm saying is that if you've got a group of men that don't have any skills, that don't have any jobs, that don't have anything, poor people that you're gonna rob from people that don't have anything. If you got a job and you got somewhere to be in the morning.
Wait, hold on, please. Hold on. Let me just finish and then.
So it's for a mindset, or is it a state of like?
Let me finish, Castro.
It's a combination of things, guys. I mean, I'm not trying to look. We're as Black people, we're in a trick bag here in this country, right? We're getting hit from both sides, right? So let's try to have understand a little bit of nuance here. Because I think everyone tries to be so hardcore one direction that we don't leave enough room for the thing. You know, for example, all of these Black children being born to single mothers, we know by stats and statistics that those children are automatically disadvantaged, correct? I'm not gonna. So if those kids are automatically disadvantaged, we've got a large percentage of Black kids that are just disadvantaged. Now, what does that mean? That they're not fulfilling their they're not fulfilling their obligations in school. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, X, Y, or Z. Now, whether or not they're working hard or not, we can argue, right? Whether or not they're being trained properly, we can argue. But the fact is that the majority of Black kids right now are being born into.
Who has the background stuff going on?
The majority of Black kids are being born into a disadvantaged situation, and again, I'm not making excuses. I'm saying that there's just nuance, and my main point is that we're overrepresented in the media as being criminal. Not to say that we're not doing it. I'm just saying that other groups are doing it at the same clip. It's just not being shown.
Fine. I would.
Hold on. One mic, and then we'll pass it to Larry. Kanye was more focused on the music. I mean, I don't see any other group of people.
Here's the thing, though,
Daniels. Hold on, Alex. I don't see any other group of people who make music and celebrate their dysfunction and murder and killing other people.
Absolutely. And that also ties into what Kanye was talking about. Who pays for this music? Now they only support artists that create that type of music. That's why he said, go look at the billboards and look at the top 10 what you call it. Those are the that music companies are putting energy and promoting the bad music, not the good music, right? Not from us, right? The conscious music, nobody listens to that. Well, if they just took all the bull off of the radio and just put conscious on, and we had no choice to listen to the conscious, that's what we listen to. But that's not what happens. They push the conscious rappers to the side, and then they go on ahead and put the Sukiyanas on front and center.
In regards,
let me make this quick point.
We're passing it to Larry. Go to Larry.
Thanks very much. In regards to the violence, it's very easy to get out of the discussion when you compare the results to the majority population, which is the white population. But then there becomes a problem when you look at the black population, which is part of the minority group, and you compare it with all the other minority groups. And then you say, are the Jewish community, are they having the same problem as the black community? No, they're not. And and when you look at all the other minority groups, the Chinese, who else? The Iranian American community, that's when you start seeing that there's a clear discrepancy. When you compare the violence within the black community with all the other minority groups, there's nowhere you can hide. You can get out of that discussion if you compare it to the majority population, which is the white population. Same problem in the UK. People try and do this thing where they say where everybody commits crime, white people are committing crime. Yes, they are the majority population in the UK. But if you compare the black population with the violence in the Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi communities, the black population is higher. If you compare it with the Jewish community, the violence in the black community is higher. The way to get out of the discussion is to compare it with the majority. And that's where you'll be able to hide and say, well, everybody's doing it. But you can't do that when you compare it with all the other minority groups. There's one minority group where there's a serious problem, where a lot of young men are being murdered at a high rate by people of their own color. It's not happening in the other minority groups at the same rate. That is the reality. Nothing you can say can change that. In the UK last year, over 31 teenagers died in London. That was a big deal. 31 teenagers were murdered in London last year. They were a mixture of different ethnic groups, but without a shadow of doubt, the majority of the teenagers who were murdered were black. When you painstakingly go through each of those cases, you find that the people who murdered them were also black, and they didn't die in police custody. They died as a result of stabbing. So when you compare black minority with other minority groups, there clearly is a problem. The tactic to cover it up is to compare it with the majority race, which is very, very bad and doesn't address the issue.
May I briefly respond?
Well done, Larry. Larry, well done. You know, I appreciate your input.
Go ahead, Alvin.
I'm not trying to scapegoat or try to escape responsibility for what Black people are doing. What I'm saying is that our condition in this country is unlike any other group of people. You can't deny that. And I think that oftentimes, a lot of times, people from other countries come here or they talk about stuff that's happened here in this country without intimate knowledge of what's really going on. And look, like I said, we are multiple. We're just, what I'm saying is just that there's nuance. Go ahead.
Wait, sorry. He lied about what I said. I talked about the UK.
Larry, one second. Albert, I disagree because in 2022, you know, we struggling and the struggle, we ain't got no opportunity and all that.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm simply saying is that the conditions that we are under now, the type of legislation that has been passed, the rules that we've been living under, the situation, we need to leave some room for the fact that 80% of Black people in this country, 60% of Black people in this country got brain damage. And it's not, and you could say is we can argue whose fault it is, but we're not hitting on all cylinders as a community. And I'm not making excuses. I'm simply just saying that, look, they've got us to where we're walking into the cage and we're closing the door behind us on the way in. Right. And part of, I think, why a lot of us are on this panel is to awaken people up. Right. And all I'm simply saying is that Black people commit crimes, poor people commit crimes, period. That's it. Now, if an entire group of people is a permanent underclass, which is what we are, if we are a permanent, if as a group we have a tenth of the percent of what the wealth is for the majority. If the majority of us are, if we're not throwing a ball or catching a ball, dancing and singing, or in a prison, then we're no good to this community. That's what this country shows us. And so as we're trying to fight our way out of this, we need to just leave a little bit of room to say, you know what, all of these broke people are in these handful of cities in this country. 19, we're boxed into 19 cities in this country. We need to understand that we're not hitting on all cylinders is all. And I think we got, and I know I'm not trying to come in here and flip tables on y'all or nothing like that. All I'm simply saying is that we are overrepresented. So I think that it looks like we're more violent to each other than these other groups are violent to each other. And once again, we're pumped full of music and things that promote our dysfunction. And it's been 30 or 40 years of it now.
You know, I say something. Let me say something real quick. I agree with both Larry and Alvin. Do we need to reduce the amount of crime and violence in Black communities globally? Yes, we do. And he made a good point as well when he brought up the UK. Because it shows that it's not just a Black American thing. That's first of all. But Alvin is also right when he talks about media and how they picture Black people. Obviously they're gonna want us at the forefront of things that are bad. So a lot what they do is they'll make us the face of crime and violence. It's like for example the FBI statistic thing. I don't believe that shit. The 13%, 60%, that bullshit. I don't believe that shit. When's the last time the FBI has had the Black community's well-being as a prerogative? Never. And the last thing I want to say is about Kanye.
See, Alex, you're right. You're right, Alex. But the thing is, for some reason, when the FBI started investigating Trump, the Black community thought the FBI was the best thing going. But go ahead.
Well, that's because they were going against their own, basically. But the last thing I want to say is about Kanye West and that that thing he said about the music and how there's bad influences in music and whatnot. But he participates in that. When he came out, he was in the rock music group, producing music for hella gangster artists. Who were talking about killing, drug selling, all kinds of negative shit. The last albums he produced were for Pusha T, not long ago, probably a year ago. What does Pusha T talk about in 90%, 99% of his music? He's talking about selling crack and shit. You know what I mean? So how this whole hypocritical thing that Kanye does, I just can't
Pusha T sells cocaine, bro.
Yeah, crack, cocaine, same shit.
Hey, can I say something?
He's selling cocaine to white folks, bro. He's selling Black people.
Hold on. Let's
Man, most Black people sold cocaine to crack and cocaine to other Black people.
Yeah, okay, but Black people can't afford.
All right, now we're getting too deep in this conversation.
One mic. Let's pass it back to Larry. Then pass it to Miriam. Go ahead, Larry. They'll pass it to Miriam.
Thanks very much. There was a message you placed up there. Somebody put in the super chat and they asked, what is the solution to B on B crime? I don't know the solutions. I'd say the first thing you need to do is you need to acknowledge that problem exists. If you don't even acknowledge that it exists, you ain't going to be able to solve it. We have the same problem in the UK that's been going on for years. Only a minority of Black people are willing to discuss that situation. Most Black people play the game where they do the what about? What about white people? What about them? What about the Scottish people? You're comparing it to the biggest population in the UK. So of course it goes without saying their stats are going to be higher than yours. But when you start to compare your minority group to all the other minority groups, it becomes scary and embarrassing because they don't have the same problem that the Blacks in the UK have. So whose fault is that? All those teenagers who were murdered that I mentioned in 2021, the bulk of them were Black in London. And they were murdered by Black. Was that the white man's fault? That wasn't the white man's fault.
Exactly.
Like I said, there's nuance.
Exactly,
okay, let's pass it to Miriam. Go ahead, Miriam.
Yeah, I just want to add that I think two things we really need to include in our conversation is code and numbers. And I really agree with a lot with what Alvin said. The only thing I disagree with is that I don't think it's from poverty, but I think it's from the value system that we were infused with. Also, what Illyria was saying, that if we compare with the general population, then it's something else. I think it's the same thing. It goes back to the value system, and we have been infused with these music and imagery on TV of I hate to say it, but crass. And so typically our crime will be crass, theft, stealing, stuff like that. And I think other communities, they have a different expectation of themselves. So they might not necessarily murder, but there might be a lot of wife beating, behind closed doors, things like that, different kinds of crime, depending on the value system. But the main thing I want to say is we need to infuse code in our lives, meaning look at how things are happening. Like, for example, this guy, Andrew Tate, I don't know if you know this guy named Andrew Tate, he was saying that there are 3 steps before they eliminate somebody. They deplatform them, take away their money, something like that. I don't remember the third one, but there are patterns in everything, and it's so important for us to keep track of these patterns, even to the point of having our own pattern that we live by. But okay, we haven't gotten the code yet. and numbers, that's another important thing that we should infuse in our conversations, because we can say, oh, there's a lot of murders here. Oh no, there's a lot more over there. But if we don't have numbers, what are we really talking about? We're just going to argue back and forth. Everyone's saying my a lot is bigger than your a lot. And that's all. Thank you.
Wait. Sorry. What is a lot? It sounds familiar, but I've forgotten. What is that? My a lot is bigger than your a lot. What does a lot mean?
A lot.
Does anybody know?
Space LOT. A lot. Like people are saying there's a lot of crime.
Oh, I see. I see what you mean now. Okay, got it.
Andrew Tate is a black king, by the way.
What you want?
Hey, can I speak? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Theo. Go ahead.
Hey, so I want to say everybody makes great points, right? There's this perspective to be had from every angle of what everyone is saying. It's easy to see. And I'm sure there's flaws in everything all of us say, and we kind of do inventory and realize that. But I want to put an anecdote out there real quick, just to kind of illustrate part of the problem. If you take 100 people and put them in a prison, right? 100 non-criminals, well-meaning people, right? Who are otherwise well-behaved, put them in a prison and provide them with enough food for 20 people every day for 100 days. Let's say a year, right? I'm sure maybe, over the course of a few days, they'll find a way to, divide the food up. They're not getting enough each, but they'll divide it up, But at some point, they'll start realizing they're not getting enough when they divide it evenly, right? And someone's eventually going to figure out a way to steal some, right? Right? And then when that stops,
but Theo, that's prison. That's prison life.
Right,
That's
right,
prison.
right. So I say that to say society, to a degree, right, has mechanisms that can shut you in and shut you out. Right? Where resources are concerned. Right? Because we don't live. Go ahead.
It doesn't. It doesn't. Because right now in the community, if I don't have certain resources, I could go to the county and get a food stamp or a EBT card. All right. If you don't have enough resources, you could get subsidized rent and housing. So I'm just not buying it.
You know what? And I get your point. And you know what I used to think? I used to be downtown, right? I used to hang out downtown, and I would see people, on the sidewalk begging for money and food. And I used to ask myself, like, man, they could just take a fucking fishing pole, go out and catch some fucking fish. Then I went fishing, right? And realized I spent the whole fucking day fishing and didn't catch a fish. The only thing is I had eaten prior to going fishing, and I had food to go back home to. Do you get what I'm saying? So just like you're talking about EBT and these things you can apply for, it's not a given. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm not saying it's not there.
Theo, yes, it is. Theo, listen.
Right.
I use myself as an
Dynasty.
example. When I was in LA, all right, and I was a struggling actor. I literally, somebody told me, Dynasty, you could go right now and go get an EBT card right now, same day. I literally went into an EBT office in LA, in Koreatown. I walked in, told them I ain't got no money. They gave me an EBT card, $200 a month. This is back in 2009. $200 a month gave me EBT card. So I'm not buying this that you don't have access to resources for the needy. A lot of this is just a choice. I used to feed the homeless on Skid Row. A lot of them
I get you, Dante. I'm not taking away from your point.
We just continue to make excuses for the
No, I'm not
dysfunctional
making an excuse. But the reason why I'm telling you this, the reason why I provided that is because I over criticize sometimes, and I have to step back, right, and think. I think at the base of people are good, right? But I do think circumstances happen because I hear what you're saying, but I'm also aware of the guys that I grew up with whose parents were on crack cocaine, whose parents took the money that should have paid the bills to go out and buy crack, right? So I have to look at the way they may have had what the things they couldn't go out and apply for a job. We're talking about like 13 years old, right? They couldn't go out and apply for shit on their own. The best they could hope for is when they went to school getting the free lunch, if their parents did that shit correctly, right? But it's more to it than that. So what I'm saying is, I get what you're saying. There are resources available, but getting to those resources aren't always a straight line for everybody.
For a single mother in their
single
situation,
mother. I'm talking
America,
about a lot of this crime we see.
It's a straight line. It's a
straight
line.
A lot of the crime we see is happening. It starts at a very young age, right? At a very young age, before these young people have agency in the way that you had agency when you asked that person about the EBT card. You get what I'm saying? I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying, me personally, I do have to check myself sometimes because just like I was saying earlier, hey, there are murderers amongst us or within our community. It's not our community. We are not killers and murderers. They're within the community, and they should be treated as that, right? But also, I have to recognize that there are other things, right, which contribute to the things that we see. So you can't just simply punish the crime, right? There has to be preventive measures. And to have preventive measures, you have to understand the nuances, right? Which can lead to a person potentially becoming that person who's going to be the criminal, right? And so it's not an excuse, but if you ignore that, then you're just going to miss it. And it's always going to be being retroactive versus proactive, trying to punish the crime instead of preventing the crime.
In terms of the poverty situation,
I like that.
I'll give you an example in the UK where you can actually get your housing paid for. Yeah, as a young man, you get your housing paid for. You get your weekly. That's if you're some bum. You don't want to get up in the morning and go to work. Yeah, you just want to hang out with your mates and smoke weed and and do whatever you do in a little hustle on the side. Yeah, there's no reason, there's no poverty over here like you probably will find in the US when it comes to that bottom income level. So I don't understand why the kids in the UK are still engaged in crimes. So in terms of Alvin saying earlier it's poverty, I don't understand it. So why these kids that get their housing paid for get money every month?
It's not poverty, it's greed. It's greed. That's it. It's greed. Because like I said, I went in that office and people are saying $250 is not a lot. Listen, in 2009, as a single man, like you could get like $200 a month in 2009. Wasn't that bad as far as going across? Like, look, I would go to it was called Ralph's on Western and in Wilshire. I would go in there, I swipe my card, got all the food I needed, and I was good. Like I was good, like for the whole month. And then maybe on a weekend I'll go out and get something to eat. But $200 a month for a single man in 2009, that was enough. Let me pass it to Sly Ghana's. I can't pronounce his name. Go ahead, Sia. Go ahead, Sia.
It's Sayagana, Scythian slave.
Sia Ghana. Go ahead.
Yes, well, I agree with the brother that just got off. I really can't say too much right now other than what he said.
Hold on 1 second. Somebody asked Dynasty, what would you have done if you didn't get the $200 a month? I would have got a damn job.
So why didn't you get a job instead of taking the $200?
No, because I was on this, I want to act the model and I need to have my schedule free. But I ended up going back to corporate America.
How long did you stay on welfare?
It was 1 month. And then I went in the office and said, listen, I'm going, I can't do this. I'm going back to work. They said, okay.
All right. Now I hear people when we're speaking about, do you understand that when you're looking at crime and you're looking at people that are oppressed, the crime that comes out of that oppression, that's a symptom of it. You do understand that, right?
That's excuse, man. Listen,
you're saying
ain't nobody being oppressed, bro.
All right,
nobody is being oppressed.
Let's take a quick look, right? Let's take a people like, let's say the Palestinians, right, in Israel. Who do you think fill the prisons up in that situation? Who do you think?
Yeah, but see, I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna tell you the difference though. I'm gonna tell you the difference between Palestinians and Israelis. All right, I mean, and the black community, I guess. Palestinians will take a rocket launcher and damn shoot that motherfucker at Israelis.
Okay,
black folks. See, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet.
No, I was.
I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet because you're making excuses. I'm not done yet. Black folks in the black community will terrorize their own community. Then when the police come, will take dope, swallow it, stuff it up their ass, and take off running so they could go and sell dope the next day. It's a complete difference. You can't compare black folks in America to Palestinians because they will actually throw rocks. They will put their life on the line. They will fight oppression. Black folks in America ain't doing that.
Can I respond?
I don't know, Dynast.
Yeah, can I respond?
Palestinians, their numbers
it's a totally
are more
different
equal to
situation
Israelis.
comparing the situation in America to Palestine.
Yeah.
I thought it was my turn to talk, so it's my turn to talk. You mute me, and then I don't.
You were over talking. You were over talking me, so I had to mute you. But go ahead, Steve.
I know, but I just started to talk, and it's like you cut my mic, and now someone else is talking. It's like I never get a chance to.
Well, go ahead.
I think Brother Theo had a point. I'd like to say something.
Finish talking, but I mean, it's just
let him come back, Dennis. Let him come back.
In 2022, this is a no victim zone. Ain't nobody being oppressed. And the white man ain't got his foot on your neck. You can get out there and you can get to it. The people that are doing the oppression is black folks oppressing other black folks. Is black folks terrorizing each other. Is black folks terrorizing our community.
So you don't want me to talk.
You don't. But see, go ahead. But go ahead, see. Go ahead. Let me hear.
Sounds like you don't want.
Two things can be right at the same time.
Okay.
Let me hear.
Okay. So what I wanted to do is just take a look at some of the people. I noticed this. So if we look at the Palestinians, regardless of the stuff you're saying, what I mean is when you look at all the statistics, all the negative statistics, that group is going to be filled with them. Everywhere you find the oppressed people, if you looked and said, okay, let's look at the Aborigines in Australia. Well, all the negative statistics filling the prisons, they fill the prisons more than any people on earth. They must be much worse than African Americans. What do you know about them so negative that make them fill all the prisons, that make them on drugs? All the negative things you hear about us, you're going to hear from them. Look at the Dalits in India. Anywhere you find oppressed people, you're going to find this same scenario. And when you ask the people who are oppressing them, they're going to say, oh, that's because they choose to live like that. But
that's true. That's true in a way, brother. That's true in a way. But in the US and the UK, there's a way out of it.
It's a necessary. The oppression is necessary. The system is capitalistic. A capitalistic system.
Oh, golly.
You need in a capitalistic system. You need a labor force. You need a labor force. You need a workforce. You need a people. You need a people that you can crush and make your money off.
That's true. That's true. We're not denying that.
You ain't being crushed, bro. You ain't being.
We are. We're being oppressed.
The brother, you ain't being oppressed, bro.
Okay, so you don't. So do you know what oppression is?
You ain't being oppressed,
Dynast, could you give me the definition of oppression?
You ain't being oppressed.
Can you give me the definition of oppression?
Could I speak?
You ain't
We
being
like to share
oppressed.
the definition so everyone can judge for themselves.
You ain't
Hey,
being
Dynas, let me
oppressed.
ask you one question. One
Listen,
question for Dynas. One question. One question.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Now, and this is it might be a little personal, but I'm gonna ask and you don't have to answer. But as a child, have you ever gone hungry?
No, you know why I didn't go hungry? Because my mom, my grandma, my father made sure I didn't go hungry.
But was that your choice though? As an
Huh?
individual, was that your choice?
No, my parents made sure I didn't go hungry.
Somebody. So the reason why I ask you that is, right? There's and this is not to make an excuse, don't get me wrong, but you gotta understand sometimes things that lead to other things. There are people who develop insecurities about life at a very early age because of people who should have been taking care of them, who should have been feeding them, didn't. Maybe they couldn't, I don't know. But there are people who grow up from a young age to by the time they're 13, 14 years old are insecure about life and the ability of life to actually give them what they need to survive, right? Because they didn't get that.
May I
And
jump
that
in?
can set that sets an impression upon a person that may cause them to behave in a way that you may not get right away and you may not understand. And it's not to make an excuse for them, but that has to be understood because, again, to solve the problem, you have to understand beyond just your perspective. You have to really be willing to understand the nuances that go into.
But Theo, there's so many resources out there.
May
I
I?
get it, but when you're young,
But
Dynas,
Theo, he made a
Honestly,
good
I
point.
think
Like
Dynas
like
has a point
the
here.
parents sometimes, yeah, two things can be right at the same time. Theo and Dynast is right. Now, a lot of these killings are being carried out by young kids. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example for King Von. He killed this first person when he like 14 years old or 15 years old. A lot of times these dudes, they're not getting the necessary things that that they need at home, so they turn to the streets.
May I?
And they start to express themselves in the streets. It's not right. I'm not saying that it's right, and I ain't making an excuse for it. But
you have people
Theo's right. There's reasons why these things happen.
May I? You know, we have this cultural, like I said, sorry.
Go ahead.
We,
Yeah, go ahead.
we
Go
have
ahead.
we
Go
have
ahead.
we have this conversation about culture and right and you go into the hood where black people are, right, and it's like you ain't a real one unless you got some time on you. You ain't this, you ain't that. Like I don't know where that message came from, but that's a message that's only pushed in the black community. So when you talk about other minorities, that kind of talk isn't allowed in those other minority groups. Now, if you talk about all the in the hood with black people, right? It's like you got to catch a body, you got to do this, that, or the other thing.
You must not be from the hood. You must be misunderstanding.
Yeah, now come on. Listen, that's true. That's
Mexicans do the same
Either-
thing, bro.
right.
Mexicans
Anyways,
do the same thing.
But the
so
point
what I'm
is,
simply
the
saying is
Mexicans are not the only minority group. You have other minority
there
groups
are
in
other,
America.
and what I'm saying is that those other minority groups don't let that narrative take hold in their group. But once again, when we go back to what's being allowed and what's being perpetuated with our particular culture, that particular behavior has been allowed for whatever reason. Now, like I said, we can argue why it is, but the fact is that for whatever reason, that type of behavior is allowed, and that's what's going on. Now, I will say
that's
this.
what you think is going on, but you're not in it. You're not even living it. You're not living it. You don't even live like that.
Why do I have to
You're
live
talking
like
about.
that? Why
You're
do I
talking
have to
about a
live?
lifestyle you've
Why
never
do I
lived.
have
You're
to
talking
live
about
He
like
has to
that?
live that lifestyle.
Why do
He
I
don't
have
have
to
to talk about
why
it.
do I
well,
have
you
so
might
you're
want
telling
to
me
before
I
you try
got
to
so
talk
you're
about
telling
it.
me I
If
gotta
you've
be
never
like,
been in the street, why would you try to talk about it and
what
tell
are
what the
you
mindset?
talking
Yeah, you
about?
can't really,
Talk
How do you know the mindset? How do
if
you
you've
know the
never been in
mindset?
the streets, you
You don't
can't
know
really
the
talk about
mindset
it.
of someone thinking
Because
unless
the
you.
people in the streets are
Well,
affecting us
let
regular
Alvin,
law-abiding citizens.
let Alvin finish. Let Alvin finish. Go ahead, Alvin. Finish your thought, Alvin. Go ahead, Alvin.
There's no other group in this country that allows this type of behavior culturally, that allows it or glorifies it for whatever reason. And you can argue why. We do. Now, what I'm trying to say is that, and I want to go back to this black on black crime thing. Black on black crime, just the term itself is a term that was created so that they could do whatever the hell they wanted to us in our neighborhoods. Because the thing is that people commit crime with whoever's closest to them. So Asian commit crime against Asians, white people commit crime against white people, and so on and so forth. So that particular term, the fact that they only hone in on black people, we should be aware that they only hone in on black people. Let's be real. Now, if you want to go into, and I'll end with this, the way that this country gained its wealth above any and everybody else happened post-slavery. Okay, listen, post-slavery. If you go back and read the Constitution and you read the amendments all the way through, they never really changed it. All they did was they changed the language and they changed the way it was through sharecropping, through Jim Crow, so on and so forth. That's how they extracted funds. So once again, I think that in this country, we have a unique situation when it comes to our relationship with the law. And I think when you say, for example, talk about Palestinians and so on and so forth, we've been in this bucket for a while now, brothers. Like in this country, we've been in this bucket for a while now, and they've got us to where we're walking ourselves into the cages. And
Okay,
all I'm simply saying is, like I said, because I would imagine that in Brazil, they don't allow the same type of culture being pushed in the media to look exactly the same. And you know what the reality is that I don't really know, and I can't speak on Brazil. All I can do is I can speak on here. And the data shows that we are overrepresented in the media for criminality. And that's all I'm trying to say. So that people think that we are all worse than we really are. The majority of black men are in prison for non-violent drug offenses, not for murder.
Dynast, remember what I was saying to you earlier about how in 2021, 30 teenagers died and the majority were black. That was
I'm also conservative, by the way.
That was for 2021. Black people are not the majority in London. I've just seen the data now for 2022. Teenagers that have died so far and counting. And when you go down the list and you see the pictures, they are unfortunately black. And black people are not the majority in London.
That's what you said, the pictures. You see the pictures, right? You see the pictures. Where do the pictures come from?
There are other minority groups. Yet, you see, this is the problem. This is why it goes back to the person who left the super chat and asked, what is the solution? The solution will never come because the first thing you need to do is acknowledge that the problem exists.
Larry, give us a solution, please.
Most black people refuse to even acknowledge that the problem exists. That's why it will never be solved.
Because you're looking at the wrong
Larry, you've made the same point over and over. What is the solution?
He's making a good point.
You're looking at the wrong thing, thinking there's a problem. You're looking at a dog fight, thinking, "Oh, one dog bit the other one. What dog bit one first?" No, it's the person setting up the damn dog fight. It's coming from above.
That makes no sense.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. You're looking at listen again slowly.
No, I'm not.
You're looking at the results. What you're looking at, someone is setting up a society. When they set up a society, the way that society is structured is going to determine how things play out.
So I'm going to ask you this simple question. So in regards to what you're saying, the number of teenagers who died in London, the majority who were black, whose fault was that? Are you saying it's the white man's fault?
It is still coming to system. They live within an oppressive system. Yes, look at the conditions that people live in. Okay, listen. Okay, so there's a test. There's a famous test where they do with the rats. I'm sure you might be familiar with this. You look at it. Yes, the rats. So when you look at it, right, they structure a society. When you structure a society, you can see the way everything will play out. Now, there's going to be a lot of dynamics within all the different rats there. A lot of different things are going to go on. But you got to understand, everything's going on is being determined by those who are setting up the structure of the society.
In which country? Why don't we just leave? Quick question. In which country do black people...
No, hold on. Hold on. One mic. Let's pass.
Let me just this quick question, Dynast.
Go ahead, Tyrone.
Man, my talk is short, like a sentence.
Yeah, I said at one point, I'm going to jump off. So I work with kids. Here I'm in Charlotte right now, kind of in the city, man, and I'm working with kids kind of intimately through sports and mentorship. And what I'm seeing is, man, we got several generations of post-traumatic stress. I was a soldier. I deployed 4 times in the Army, and I got PTSD myself. Known people that have it. I volunteered to see the things I saw. I'm seeing kids who are seeing people killed. They seen family members killed, and it's like multiple generations of this, and no one ever addresses that. Now, I don't believe in the
Yeah.
excuse thing, but it's got to be addressed. Like I get clapped and I get pat on the back for my stuff I went through. These kids haven't asked for that, and they're struggling with that. And so then we call them animals when they act out. Okay,
Right.
So my question is like, how do we address that? Now I understand,
But
and I don't feel
Tyrone,
like, like
I'll
everybody's
say this and let
impressed.
you finish, Tyrone. I think going through what they're going through is still an excuse to go and kill another black man. So yeah, I don't care what you went through. If you kill another black man, you are an animal. Period.
Right.
We animals anyway, so
Right.
Yeah, so and that's why I tell my guys, hey, look, you've had a hard life, you had this going on, but once you do that, nobody's going to care. That's true. But leading up to that, how do we help these young men before it gets to that? And my question to some of these black men out here, are any of you guys actually reaching out to some of these young men and helping, other than talking about them and calling them animals? Because I see a lot of that for our black men.
that's a good
We
question. That's a
call
good
them
question.
animals, we talk about them, but we don't help. We don't give a damn. We don't help anybody.
I'll tell you straight.
Speak to them.
I will tell you straight. If you're responsible for taking the life of another human being, sorry, Dynast, but you're a fucking piece of shit. I'm not interested
I
in
agree.
helping you.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
But this
So anytime, so any
I'm
murder,
talking about
any
before it gets
killing,
to that.
any killing is bad, huh? You don't believe in
I'm
justice,
talking about reaching out to these guys before it gets. It's a point before it gets to
protecting your
that.
family,
Prevent that.
protecting those you love. That's not a good reason to kill.
Nobody said that, bro.
Oh,
Nobody
that's what I
said
thought
it.
you said. He said anytime you do it, you're a piece
People always kill it.
That's
People
not
always
murder.
kill it.
Anytime.
Black on black
Anytime
crime
means
is
every time.
bullshit. And you're an animal. Once you've gone there, you're an animal once you do it. I'm talking about, are we helping these kids before they get to that point, instead of like just looking down on them? And 'cause I see that a lot. No one does anything. They just kind of talk.
You would have to
I
define
think it would be a
who.
lot
You would have
better
to
if we
define
understand that we
who.
are animals.
Hold on, what, Mike? Let's pass it
You
to Freddie. Freddie's been waiting, and then I got to log off.
No,
Go ahead.
it's okay. I mean, I just like listening, and I'm
You would
taking
have,
in what's going on at the moment. So yeah, I
yeah.
think when it's time for me to.
My response to Tyrone, you would have to define who we is. Who's we? Who's supposed to help them?
Yeah.
The first people who are supposed to help them are their immediate families. The second people are the people around in the community, and then maybe they can find mentors and other people. But unless you're close to them, it's really hard to help them.
Exactly.
The only side
Sorry,
I can say Alvin was correct is in terms of it's like some of the black neighborhoods where community centers or certain things like like leisure centers and stuff like that is not there. So that's where these kids normally go and hang out and do young kids things instead of being out there hanging around with the wrong people. But that's not only the black community suffer with that, that's even the white working class community.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would say in regards to a solution, part of it was mentioned partly by Alvin. For most of what he said, we're against each other. We're on separate spectrums politically. But he mentioned something about a code. And he was talking about how some communities will simply not allow certain things to take place within their community, but black people will allow it to take place. Now, if black people have a code within their community where they're going to say, listen, kids, you can't be doing this, or you shouldn't be allowing teenagers to do that, or you shouldn't be dancing to this music, or you shouldn't be listening to music drill where black people are talking about and bragging about killing other black people. You should
I agree with that.
As a community,
And
you should be
I agree
boycotting
with
that music.
So follow
It's called autonomy.
So follow through.
Hey,
with
I
the
like that music, man.
So
I don't
follow
know.
through with the distribution.
Music ain't got nothing to do with it. Music ain't got nothing to do with it.
It's not.
Music has everything to do with it. When a man has killed another man and then decides to do a video, where he is bragging about it, and because he's so stupid, he brags about it in the video, the police then arrest him and his crew.
Exactly. I know what you're talking about,
me some
Ellery,
Pop
because we
Smoke,
live here.
man. This is
These people
hard.
don't understand what you're talking about. Some of them don't understand anyway, but most of them do. That's the bottom line.
Like I said, our culture is broken, gentlemen. In this, and again, American blacks.
Our culture.
Listen,
Our culture's broken.
Listen.
It's
Our
not
culture
broken.
in this country is broken because
It's
once
not.
again,
Because-
Oh, now Freddie, go ahead, Freddie.
No, I was just going to say, you can't say that our culture is broken because I'm assuming that you're kind of mentioning the music side of our culture.
I'm mentioning that our lack of curiosity, our lack of need to get our education properly, our lack of motivation.
Do you know what I mean? Because our culture is more than just music.
Did you hear what I just said?
Where do you get all that from? You don't have no motivation. You don't have.
Listen.
You don't feel this. Are you talking about yourself when you say that, or are you talking about other black people?
Dinus just said
when you say no
right?
motivation, when you say all that negative stuff about black people, are you talking about yourself, or are you talking about other black people?
Exactly. Yeah.
I understand that you're triggered.
He's talking about the
I'm
black
trying.
community.
What I'm trying to do is let you guys just realize that again, the rules aren't. All these other cultures have these.
Are you talking about yourself, or are you talking about?
Can I finish my statement, brother? Please, maybe. Can I please?
Yeah, let the man finish, please.
If what I'm simply trying to say is that the small hat community doesn't allow the type of behavior that we do, right? Some of these other other cultures don't allow the type of behavior that we're talking about. Now, whether it's just the music or the media or our upbringings or whatever, the reality is that we have allowed too much of it to go on. And in addition to that, we are overrepresented for criminality in the media so that everyone else thinks that we just had that conversation about who controls the media.
It's not us.
Like, you're right. Exactly. So what I'm saying is that not only do we have these broken parts of our culture, but we also have other people using that as fuel to treat us poorly. So two things can be true at the same time. All I'm simply saying, brother, is that it's not when I say our culture is broken, and like I said, I'm part of it, right? I get treated poorly anywhere I go because of the types of things that people see in the media. They think I'm going to be like what they see on TV. Whose fault is that? That's not my fault, but I still got to deal with it. Go ahead.
Right, that's an oppressive society, the racist society that we live in.
I don't disagree with you. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that I think a lot of times people butt heads and they try to pretend like both things can't be true at the same time, and understand that, like, once again, I think 60% of black folks, unfortunately, and I hate to say this and don't be mad at me, black people in this country unfortunately got brain damage. We walk right on into the cage and we shut the door behind us on our way. We don't even need to be told to do it anymore.
That's from oppression.
You're right.
That's from oppression.
I don't disagree with you.
So therefore, it's hard to how you condemn the people when you know you're in a structure.
I never condemned anybody. I never condemned anybody.
Where you're sort of like saying, "Oh, our culture is broken."
We're
living within a society. When you live in a society where the powers that be attack you, you know what I mean. You're just
understood.
Wait. Do you ever take accountability for anything?
Absolutely. I always do. Do you take the blame for everything?
Do you? So then,
when I hear you talk, according to you, every other race of people is perfect and black people are messed up.
No, that's not what I said. What I said
that's why it sounds like I'm not taking accountability.
What's happening in
That's why you keep trying to talk over me.
You're over in America because I'm still talking. You don't know.
But I was in the middle of speaking. I'm in the middle of speaking and you're trying to jump in.
You don't know.
You're real emotional. When I point out the fact of oppression,
because you never take accountability for anything.
Oppression is real. Do you agree?
Excuses all the time.
Is oppression real or not?
Making excuses.
Listen, is it real or not? I bet you won't answer that question.
Gentlemen.
You don't want to answer the question because
take responsibility. Stop making excuses.
Gentlemen, if I may.
Oppression is real.
If I may. It's just a conversation.
If I may.
It's not a conversation because the neighborhood where I live, 2 girls got murdered. And they were murdered.
Gentlemen.
You mad for no reason, bro. You ain't gonna do nothing.
Gentlemen.
I am mad because the problem will never be solved because black people never acknowledge that the problem exists.
So, but you're gonna blow a gasket just being mad.
What I'm saying right now is that there is a problem, and it does exist. Like I said, I believe our culture is damaged, it's broken, it needs to be fixed. And the types of things and the behavior that we allow now, no other group of people allow. So we need to start to set the record straight. Someone said
people commit crime.
I understand that. I'm not saying that we don't do it, brother. I'm saying that we do it, and we. Why is it that you throw parties when dudes come out of prison, but they don't throw parties when dudes graduate?
Who? That's your
Exactly.
friends? That's your
Exactly.
friends and family?
That
That's not my
happens
friends
in
and
our.
family.
Let's
They do.
once
They
again.
do. What are you
Let's
talking
just be
about?
real,
What
brother.
black
Like,
people
come
do
on,
you
There
know,
man.
is
man?
there is
Maybe it's your
problem. There
family
is
and friends.
problem with
Maybe
Let's
you
black
just
just
be.
being
people
around
in
a
Let's.
the
terrible
US.
culture
Most
of
black
black
people
people.
do that.
Because the black
Most
people
black
I know,
people
we
do that.
celebrate all those things. We celebrate all
Most
those
black
things.
people do
What's
that
wrong
shit.
with you, man? You can't really
I have
believe
a
what you're saying.
question. I have a question for Jay, the letter J.
Yep.
Are you saying that there is a problem in the black community?
A problem
Yes,
with what?
I mean, a lot of people on this platform.
No,
I
for
say
the
yes.
letter
Any
J.
any people that are oppressed are obviously gonna have problems. That's what oppression does. It's what it was designed to
So
do.
I think that's what
But it
everyone is
doesn't mean we have to
basically
go and kill
saying.
one another, though.
Wait, okay, let's just establish that there is a problem, and the way everyone is treating the problem is also a problem. So there's two
But that
problems.
hasn't been acknowledged. No, people don't acknowledge there's a problem.
Did I
Because
just? Did I just not
If you
say our
acknowledge
culture is
it,
because
broken?
the
Hold
problem
on.
is the
Did I
oppression.
just
Alvin,
not? Are you
Alvin,
listening to what I said?
Alvin, not
Does
you. I'm not saying
everybody
you,
on the
Alvin.
panel acknowledge that it's a
Alvin.
problem? I do.
What I've said, Alvin,
Oppression
is
is
that
the
the
problem.
majority of black
Oppression
people
is the
don't
problem.
acknowledge there's a problem. You acknowledge there's a problem.
Oppression
He
is the
doesn't
problem.
acknowledge there's a problem. He doesn't acknowledge it.
No, oppression is the problem. Oppression
I
causes
think
that.
we're basically all acknowledging that there is a problem.
But are we acknowledging that there's oppression?
Absolutely.
And what
Yeah.
does oppression cause? Does it cause crime within the community of the people that are oppressed?
Look, we have to get.
I
We have
think the
to.
way
Does
they
it
react.
cause crime? Does
People,
oppression cause crime
absolutely.
in the community of the people that are oppressed?
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
oppression
Okay, so
causes
we know.
a black man to deliberately rape a black woman.
That's a little harsh.
Well, that's part of the crime.
But I mean,
black
let's
teenagers being
and
murdered
right,
by
and you
black
still, and
teenagers.
you right.
So you're
You
saying
still
that
would go.
oppression causes
That
those
is
black teenagers to deliberately kill another group of black
right.
teenagers.
So
All right,
what
but
you're explaining now,
some
what
white
you're
boy got
explaining is
caught.
like
Some white boy got caught like messing with, doing some girl in an alley not too long ago. Man, what are we talking about? Like
Exactly.
everybody
Now
commits crime.
You're doing
Stop doing that.
You're doing the whataboutism.
What I'm saying
no,
is that
no.
everybody.
Listen, when you
I agree with you.
blaming
I agree
other
with you,
people
but you
for
can't
your
be just jumping
problems.
off. I agree with you, my friend, but you can't just be jumping off the ledge. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Like I said,
gave
like
you a
all
fact.
and I gave you another one.
No, what you did was you played whataboutism. The man there said that oppression causes problems. So I asked him, if a black man decides to rape a black woman, is that the fault of oppression, or should
yes,
that
it's
black
the
man
fault of
take
oppression. And let me go back and explain
accountability
to you.
for
Let me explain to you why. Now,
See,
what
this
you're
is
looking
why
at.
we don't
Now,
agree.
here's an analogy for you. What you're looking at is a flood. What you see is the flood damage. You're saying, look, at the water's causing damage on the wall and all these different things. I'm letting you know it's the flood coming in through the house. You're worried about cleaning stuff in the bedroom because yes, the water is causing damage on the rug. Yes, all these little other problems do exist, but they exist because of this big problem we have. You got to see
according to you, the reason why that black man chose to rape the black woman was because of the white man, and the reason why those black teenagers decided to kill all those other black teenagers was because of the white man. So it's the white man's fault.
Oppressive conditions begin while you are before you were even born. These oppression begins while your mother's while you're pregnant, while your mother's pregnant and she's going to the hospital being mistreated, misdiagnosed, all of that. It starts then. Before you come out, it already starts. The whole thing is on you from day.
This is why this problem will never be solved.
So
black
with that,
people don't take accountability or even acknowledge this problem.
A young kid. You may be living in a ghetto, eating paint chips because you live in a house with lead paint, drinking water from lead pipes. You may be in a drug-infested neighborhood. I mean, there's tons of things that come off of this oppression that cause any kind of things that you become. I mean, it's just like the brother said earlier. You take the best person in the world, stick them in a prison situation, stick them into some situations, and they're gonna have to adapt and change to the conditions of their environment. If they're in a rough-ass environment, they're gonna become a rough-ass person.
Stop making excuses for murderers.
Environment. No,
stop making excuses for murderers.
If I could interject really quick, because there's a lot of very fair points from everyone. I think that we have been definitely placed in a situation to where we're looking at, again, to where the Black community is being exploited exponentially through the media. I agree with that. Also through the fact that when we initially were trying to develop an organization that was for the people, like the Black Panther Party, and creating ways to feed their children. The Black Panther Party was dismantled by, the peoples, them other peoples over there, and then eventually the SNAP EBT benefits program came into play, and that's when free lunches and different things like that were implemented into government supplementation. So it's kind of in the same process, or the same understanding, that as Black people, yes, we have to take accountability. So there's one point to that. We do need to take accountability, but at the same time, when we try to take accountability, we are dismantled. For instance, Rosewood. Okay, we're talking about Antifa and all these other different things, and everybody's like damaging the Black community and everything else. What happened in Rosewood? If we're talking about Rosewood, we had Black millionaires that were building self-proclaimed businesses that were thriving, that had a whole economic system all to ourselves. And what happened after that?
They destroyed it.
Okay.
I and great point. And like I said, we as Black people in this country are, and I say it and I mean it, we're in a little bit of a trick bag. We're getting hit from a lot of different angles. There are successful of us. There are the Pookies and the Ray Rays. The loud, unfortunately, the ones that are the loudest, the ones that get promoted the most, the ones that are out in front, the ones that are speaking for us seem to be the ones that are showing a bad example, unfortunately. And until we figure out how to eliminate that problem from our consciousness, until we can figure out how to, get kids back into school and curious again, get back into engineering, become, that whole, that's the famous Biggie clip, that preamble where it's like, I want to be, or it was on Snoop Dogg, my bad, I want to be a mother effing hustler, right? Like that for whatever reason has burned itself into our frontal lobes as Black people in this country. And it's not like, I want to be an engineer.
That's just the Black people, because I don't know the Black people like that.
I'm saying the narrative in the music and the media and what we've allowed to take in and what we do, right? The whole being for example, being okay with single motherhood and baby mama-ism, being okay with the type of criminality, celebrating these thugs and gangsters.
What is single motherhood? What is that? What does that mean?
If I can
half the marriages that ever take place end up in a divorce. So is that single motherhood? What do you mean?
Really quick, baby. Listen, there is a thing.
And whenever I speak, I get cut off. But
no, I'm just trying. I want to answer really just 1 second, just really quick, and I'll let you speak. But there is a thing with the whole aspect of with social media on Instagram where baby mothers are being praised and their rapper boyfriends are being gunned down. Like, it's a thing. This is really happening, and these girls are thinking that being a concubine or being a groupie is going to get them far. And as long as they got a baby and them records is still spinning while they don't get any justice for their baby father, like it's out of control. Okay, continue.
Well, this comes back to saying people need a code that they stick to.
Yes.
A code of respect. But in order for you to have that code, most people would have to acknowledge that there's a problem. And they would have to start making changes in their community. So, and that change would be with this code, how the women conduct themselves, how the men conduct themselves, how the boys, the teenagers conduct themselves, what you're willing to allow and what you're willing to speak out against. I remember back in the 90s in your country, you had a woman called Cynthia Dolores Tucker. She and a group of other Black women started protesting against what was happening in the media. When they saw images coming from Black people who were saying demeaning things about Black women and Black men. And she and all these other Black women chose to protest against that, but they were cut down. They were abused by most Black people. Most rappers had lyrics in there where they were disrespecting C. Dolores Tucker.
I think once again, that's an incomplete description of exactly what happened, because when you look at the money behind pushing the music that direction, it didn't come from Black folks.
No, I'm not talking about the music. The artists who were singing. So when Snoop Dogg
What I'm saying is that those artists that
I'm not disputing
those artists that they didn't distribute their own music. Snoop Dogg didn't pay for
Right.
his own distribution.
No, you're not listening to what I said.
I
The
heard exactly what you
in
said.
his album, the music. So when NWA said songs like "A Bitch Is a Bitch,"
What's
and
wrong
started
with a
calling
song like "A
people
Bitch Is a
niggas.
Bitch"? What's wrong with those
Okay.
songs? I
There
don't
you
get it.
go.
Okay, now
There
that's
you
a problem.
What's wrong with
That's
that?
the problem.
There you go.
That's a
I
problem.
really, I really don't see what's wrong. It's like, are you also against
and-
horror movies and porno too? Like, what the hell
And
is wrong with you?
O'Leary, that's to your point. O'Leary, to your point, that this is the problem. Yes, I agree with
A
you.
bitch is a bitch,
So-
man. Be a grown ass man. You can't
And
say.
so what I'm saying, but see what I'm saying is that, brother, we're the only group of men that say
No,
that
we're not.
publicly.
We didn't make the word bitch. We didn't
Brother,
come
we're
up with
the
that
only
word.
group of men that say that publicly about our
No,
own
we're
women.
not. No,
Yes,
we're
you
not.
are.
We
There is
are.
no other group that
the
does
group calls
that.
women bitches.
There is no other group that makes it a culture to demean their
culture?
own race of people, that has made it
I don't
culture
consider. Is
to
that your
sing
culture? You said
and
it's a
dance.
culture.
Let
Do
me
you
finish,
practice
sir,
that?
because you are full of
All right.
excuses, and that
All
is
right. Do
part of
you
the
practice
problem.
it? All right. Do
Let
you
me finish.
practice it?
I don't practice it, but
All right. So is it a
looking
part
at
of
us
your
on a
culture? So
collective
why you say
level,
the culture then?
because
If
I'm
you
talking
don't
about
practice it, what do
from a
you?
collective perspective.
Who
I'm not talking
practices
about
it?
myself.
Does
I'm
family? Is it
talking
the people
about.
in your family? Do your friends practice
I'm,
that?
She just
can
came
you
on,
listen?
brother.
You're
Just
very
let her finish.
emotional,
I
and you're more
understand.
emotional than
Every
me.
time I ask,
Can I finish
every
my
time
point?
I ask a question, it doesn't get answered. When I
But
finish, you
I'm
interrupt.
talking.
Brother, she
So
just came
let's
on.
use
Just let her speak real
self-control,
quick.
and we all can talk one by one because we're all adults, right? Now, there's no other group that, as a collective, right, a consensus, it's
Yes, there is.
okay for us to dance to music where we talk about blowing our own brains out. No other group of people do that. We're very, very unique in
No other
that
people rap.
perspective.
No other people rap.
They don't. What are the
I've heard
songs?
people
Where
kill
are
their
the artists?
mother,
And I'm still
kill
talking,
their
and you're
baby
still
mother, put
talking.
her in
Can you
trunks,
please
all kind of
wait?
stuff.
Brother,
Because I'm not. Here's the thing. I don't argue. I'm not good at that because
You
you
didn't answer the
talking,
questions either. That's why.
but
You
I'm
won't.
talking, and you have lack of self-control, like the
No,
people we're talking
when I
about.
was talking, you just
You
jumped in and just
you
like you
have
didn't
lack
answer.
of self-control. Let me finish my point.
All right, I gotta jump off, y'all. Peace, peace, love.
You know, there's no other group of people that makes music as killing each other, blowing each other brain out, and it's a good time. That it's sickness. Okay, there's no white man who held a gun to their head
Do they make
and
movies
said
like
you
that?
have to. I'm still talking, and you still lack self-control. It's amazing to me. There's no white man who will let a gun to their head and said you must sing these songs. You must create music. White people probably even think about such music. We thought of the music and then presented it, and they presented an avenue that they can make money at our expense. So if we're going to go by this, everything is oppression and we're not responsible for anything narrative, then we should just say that we are inferior to white people, because that's what you're saying. If we have
That's
no
what you
control
feel.
over ourselves, if we have no control over what we do, then we're inferior. But my question is, how is it that people who came out of slavery, who faced real oppression, not washer and dryer oppression, not SNAP benefits oppression, not health insurance oppression, not I have a car and I have a job oppression,
You don't know
real
what
oppression. They faced real oppression, and they did way more than we do today. So I would like you to explain to me, how is that possible with all of the oppression that you speak of? Now I'll be quiet.
All right. You want to answer? You don't want to answer the questions though.
I don't know your questions because you were talking when I was talking, and that's the problem with two people talking at the same time.
You weren't listening.
Here's what I will say, if I can add on to what we have done, right? I think that people, rich Black people, understand that their existence is fragile, and that whenever they step out of line, a la seeing what Kanye is going through, they get their hands slapped, right? So I think a lot of successful Black folks. I think a lot of successful Black folks, they do what they do and they keep their head down so as not to get their head lopped off. Now, if we in one voice did get behind each other and really started to do something in particular, do something special, we could. But I think, given our circumstances, and this even goes to what you're saying, Saya, is that, we are living in a situation where there are people that are clipping us off at the knees. And like I said, I'm not trying to say that you're wrong, brother. All I'm simply saying is that our culture, as it's being fed to us, as we're eating it and consuming it, is broken and it needs to be fixed. And I'll end on that.
All right, because I'm like, once again, when y'all keep saying culture, and I'm like, man, you're talking about hip hop music and acting like that's
no, it's not just culture.
People. Okay, when I'm talking, okay, that self-control thing y'all talking about. All right, when I asked the question, for a old girl, she couldn't answer it. Oh no!
What is your question, sir? Now you can ask. I didn't hear the question.
Do white people make movies of blowing white people's heads off and all that stuff? Yes or no?
They make movies.
It's more graphic. It's more graphic than just listening. You can actually see the movie.
Now here's the question I would like to
say.
follow.
No, people do that, and the question is, do they do it? Yes or no?
Yes, they do. Okay, I would like to follow up to that.
Now do they
I would like to follow up to that. Wait. Let's get the full context.
It's my turn. I need some self-control you were talking about earlier.
Wow, okay, good. Let's exercise it.
Okay, so I know you said music and talking about women. There are people that make videos like with white women fucking horses, dogs, the most unbelievable shit you talk about dog and a woman. Now that's actually really happening. I can see it and everything. And you say white people don't do that? Because there's actually videos of it.
It's not a prime time.
That's not disrespecting their women. Or
is it a primary? Is it primary part of their culture? Is it fringe?
What you hear?
Is that stuff that's on the dark web, or is that part of their integrated?
It's called porno. It's called pornography.
It's a regular part of their culture as a people. It's not fringe. It's not something that's accepted and embraced and excused by the majority of their people.
Brother, look, it's very simple. He's talking about bestiality, which is actually a criminal offense.
No, I'm not talking about bestiality. I'm talking about just the way I'm asking. Do they treat their women like that? Do white men they make movies of women and take their women and do all those things? Because I heard when you talk about what black men rap about, but they actually do this.
But we don't see it posted all over the top 10 Billboard awards and stuff.
What,
That's
porno?
what I'm saying.
Oh no, the porno sells bigger than hip hop. Sorry,
but it's not out in the public. You have to go pay for it. It's behind a paywall, so on and so forth. As a culture, we allow. What I'm saying, you can't try to put porno and our cultural and how we're represented.
That's not our culture,
sexually,
bro. Unless you live it. No one on the panel lives like that, but they keep saying our culture. If you're not living like that, how's it your culture?
If you are black and in the United States, you're part of the culture, whether you live in black neighborhoods or white
part
neighborhoods.
Of what culture? What do you listen? When you call it culture, it's like you don't even know what you're saying.
American culture. What are you talking about?
What is American culture?
How we live, how we breathe, jobs we take,
how we live,
do everything.
Now I know I'm from Northeast, right? I'm living in the South now. I know it's a little different in the way we live. Are we all living the same, or are we living a little bit different?
The culture for the South and North are slightly different.
All right, but you just said we're in America and we're all the same. We all had the same culture. Which one is it?
Semantics? Come on, man.
Okay.
No, you just said it's all the same culture. Now, when I ask you to give you an example, now you know it's not the same culture.
What are you talking about?
You said American culture.
So drug dealers in the South operate different than drug dealers in the North, which operate different than drug dealers in the West Coast. Why? One lives by the beach, one lives in the city, one lives down in the South.
We all had the same culture.
But they all do the same. But they all do similar in the same things, and we're represented in the
media but that's
the
not
same
everyone's
way.
not drug dealers.
So down
everyone's
south,
not drug dealers.
What I'm simply saying is that how we're represented and how people see us in the media, and how we're represented in the media and what everyone is talking about.
We don't control how we're represented.
That's what I'm talking about.
So that's not our culture. That's not our culture. That is an image.
Someone is doing it.
Someone is doing it and puts it into the world.
Absolutely.
So don't claim that as our culture. Don't have them take a messed up image of us, put it out to the world and be like, see, look at our culture.
Someone's doing
it. That's what they're doing.
Alvin, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Yes, because I think you're an even keel person from what I gather thus far. When it comes to what Saya, if I'm saying it correctly, spoke about the bestiality and so forth, is that the primary image of white people or white women in the media? Could you answer that, please? Okay.
Absolutely not.
When it comes to white people making movies of blowing up, I'm sorry, I'm talking to Alvin. Please let me finish. When it comes to white people making movies of blowing each other's brain out, is that the primary image of white people in the media?
Absolutely
Alvin,
not. And if I can follow up with that,
please do.
Not only is that, but what they do
and
is
why not? That's the key one.
brother. So not only do they also show violence and so on against each other, but what white people and other groups are allowed to do is they're allowed to separate themselves from the bad behavior, right? So even though the majority of
So if
serial
someone
killers,
says they don't,
can I
but
please
if
finish,
someone
sir?
lies and said they
Please,
don't do it, don't turn around and say they
please.
do it now and explain why they do it. I was
Dynast, are
told
you
that they
there?
don't.
This guy's just talking over people. Dynast, are you there? Dynast, relax.
So look, if what happens is once again, culturally, where a lot of other groups are allowed to separate themselves from the bad behavior, unfortunately, Black folks aren't allowed to separate themselves from that bad behavior. We were talking about it a second ago, right? Larry was talking about the murderer, so on and so forth, right? The people that commit murder are murderers, but for whatever reason, Black people that commit murderers is Black on Black crime. So in the media or in the movies where you're saying like white people, yeah, of course they show each other blowing themselves up and shooting each other, so on and so forth. They usually make sure that they have some dignity when they do it one way or the other. But for whatever reason, when it happens to us, it hits different.
Can I
What I
also ask a
was,
follow-up question, Alvin? I'm
I
sorry,
just wanted
Larry.
to, yeah,
Go
what
ahead.
I just wanted to say, which is what I've been saying earlier, the cop out is to always compare it to the majority group, which is the white. But if you look at all the other minority groups and you put Black people with all the other minority groups, they're not really doing the same thing. Whether it's the Indian community in New Jersey, whether it's the Jewish community in New York City, you know, whether it's the Korean American community in California,
I agree.
or the Chinese community
But you gotta,
in San Francisco. I'm still talking. I don't need you talking over me, okay?
You need the right
So I
oppressor.
don't
Put
need
him in
you
an oppressive
to talk
situation.
over me.
Don't put him in a
Okay, I
non-oppressive
don't need
situation.
you
That's why
talking
you're
over me. I'm
comparing.
talking now.
You're
You had
comparing
your
them to a
chance.
suppressive people.
I'm just going
Don't
to
try
keep on
that.
talking. I'll tell them,
You're
as I
being
was saying,
slick,
when
man.
you compare
This is
them to
amazing.
all the other minority groups, there is one group that seems to be having a serious problem. But that problem is
The
not
one that
being
when it was
resolved
enslaved.
because that problem is not even being acknowledged.
I agree with you.
The one that was enslaved and put in Jim Crow. What a coincidence. That's the one facing all the issues. Yes, of course.
Not in the UK.
Take them. Now, why
Not
don't you
in the
take some people
UK.
to
No,
explain to me? Hey,
not in
listen.
the UK. No, you were wrong. I'm
Explain to
talking
me.
about the UK.
Explain to me Native
I'm talking
American
about
situation.
the UK. In the UK, they didn't
Explain
have
to
Jim
me.
Crow. I'm
Well,
talking about the
if I
UK,
could,
so you were wrong.
if I
Explain to
could
me
add on to
Native
the whole
So you
Americans.
were
UK
wrong.
thing.
So
The
we're not.
Native
You were
Americans have
wrong.
very, very
There are no
high
Native
crime rate.
Americans in
They
the
have
UK.
very, very super high
There are
crime
no
rate.
Native
Here, I'm
Americans
talking
in
in
the
the U.S.
UK.
I'm talking in the
Well,
U.S.
I'm
Right?
talking
So
about
they
the
have a
UK,
very high
so I'm
crime
not
rate.
interested
So I'm
in
trying
what
to
you're
figure
saying.
out what would be the excuse for them. What's the excuse for why do they have their high
I
crime
don't
rate?
know. I'm talking
We
about
understand.
Okay,
the
According to
UK.
them, according to them, it's the oppression.
Brothers.
According to the Native Americans, it's the oppression that they face causes the destruction of their people. So you see that on Native American
No, I don't know.
plantations.
I don't care what
Yes, yes, you
you're
can Google
talking
it. You
about.
can
I'm
Google it
talking
while I
about
talk.
the
It's
UK.
that very
You're
simple.
talking
So
about
the
Native
question,
Can I
because the
Americans.
add in
question
about the
becomes,
whole UK point
the
really
question
quick?
becomes,
I
why
wanna
are they oppressed?
try.
What is the
I don't know.
situation
He's
with
not
them?
gonna let you talk. So
Go
I
ahead.
want to
Go
try
ahead.
to
Go ahead,
bridge.
man.
I want to try to bridge the
Go
conversation
ahead. Go ahead.
between opposing ends. Okay, because there were individuals that came from Jamaica up to the UK, up to Birmingham. Okay, and I'm sure that you're very aware of the mistreatment of the Jamaicans that were in Birmingham when they first initially arrived and dealing with racism and discrimination. You know, with
excuse me.
hmm
He said slavery and Jim Crow. Are you saying
Okay, but
slavery
some of
and
those
Jim? No,
Jamaicans were
I'm
maroons.
asking you a simple
Some of those
question. He
Jamaicans were
said
maroons.
slavery and Jim
Exactly.
Crow in
Some of
England.
those
Are you telling me you're
Jamaicans.
not
I didn't say in
answering?
England. I didn't say in England slavery.
Okay, but this is what I'm saying. He said slavery and Jim Crow. Are you telling me that slavery and Jim Crow existed in the UK exactly the way it did in America?
It doesn't have to.
As
Are black
far as
people
Jim
oppressed?
Crow is concerned in
Is it oppressive
segregation,
Okay,
conditions?
this is just a shit show. Now people are making claims about the
it's
UK, saying that
no,
slavery and
no, no,
Jim
no,
Crow
no, because
existed.
they
I
were
may.
I'm Jamaican myself.
If I
So
may.
first of all,
I don't give a damn if you're Jamaican.
oh,
I
thank
asked you
you.
a
Okay,
simple
I'm
Oh
done.
question.
wow! I don't attack the lady.
Did slavery and Jim Crow exist in the UK? No, it didn't.
If I may.
Did oppressive
So
conditions?
we are
But you're trying to tell
connected.
me that Jamaicans didn't come to the UK and experience Jim
I
Crow
never said anything about
situations.
Jamaicans. Okay, I'm gonna ask that question again.
Jamaicans are black people.
Yeah, he doesn't want to admit it.
Did
Okay.
slavery and Jim Crow in America exist in the UK?
No
That's the
racism
question.
in the UK.
That is the question I'm asking you. Did
No.
slavery and
No, not the
okay.
same. Not the
Thank
same.
you.
Not the British. They weren't racist.
Not the same. But what
Not the
what I'll say is this, is that, you know, just like anything else, right? Like we were living in places and countries with you know, no borders these days. It's nothing to jump on a plane and go to the UK, right? So just like, you know, our music and so on, and our culture is leaking out into the rest of the world, you know, good or bad, the good stuff and the bad stuff. I would imagine that in the UK, you know, obviously there's racism. It's a little more, it's from what I'm told, it's a little less overt in the UK, but I believe it exists, and I think that it wouldn't be crazy to say that some of the negative cultural issues that we deal with here in this country have made its way over to the UK.
Racism exists there, but I am for people taking accountability for their actions.
For sure.
And that will never happen because the majority of Black people don't want to do that and don't want to acknowledge problems.
That's like playing a basketball game. I believe cheating exists, but we need to take accountability for why our score looks like the way it looks.
And this guy's an example of what I mean.
Exists, then you know why the score looked the way it looks.
This is why problems will never be resolved. Somebody is cheating.
You can't admit to the cheating and then just try to talk about take responsibility. Come on, man.
Brother.
Think about what you're saying.
We cannot erase.
You can't
erase what happened to our people
claim
as a
cheating. You
collective.
can't claim cheating. You can't claim acknowledge cheating and wrongdoing and then blame the person that's being done wrong. If you recognize it, you recognize.
If you think about the disproportionate time frame of what slavery has done to people, to the Black people. Okay. And I'm not saying that we can't turn it around and do what the Jewish people are doing and say, you know, we're going to keep going and let's build each other up. But it's about, again, community. It is about community. It's about coming together and trying to make that a thing. And that seems to be the primary substance of why there's so much, so much calamity going on right now. Now, one thing that you were mentioning really quick, and I wanted to say this, because I know you were making the point about film, porn, and different things like that. Mm-hmm. I will say that pornography is all over Twitter. It's all over OnlyFans. It's all over social media. I mean, all these girls are cataloging themselves and putting themselves up for sale, literally, okay, and idolizing these things that are happening within our culture. It's for it's not only just happening to Black people, but it's happening to everybody now. And the one thing that I also wanted to mention was Eminem. Okay. Now we only have just basically him that's basically putting in specific lyrics into his music that talk about the same, BITCH type things, talking about doing things to his wife, commit murder against his mother, different things like that. But the situation is that in this realm of hip hop, usually if we're looking at hip hop is predominantly dominated by Black society, because that's where it came from. So I just wanted to make that interesting point really quick, because everybody was making a whole lot of hoopla about Eminem and basically criticizing him for his lyrics and what he was doing. And it just seems to be somewhat of a normal thing when it comes down to us taking accountability and calling out our own. And maybe that's what we need to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm myself. I don't really have the biggest. I do understand music does get used against us, but I mean, half of the so-called bad music ain't even that bad to me. I mean, hearing words.
Of course.
Hearing words with swearing. Yeah, I understand you're going to come in, you don't like it, church guy, whatever. I understand everyone got their own thing, but yeah, to me, swears and all that's not that big of a deal,
I think that lies the problem, though, brother.
Yeah, I can understand. I know for some people it's too much. You know what I mean? It's like, no, rated R, can't handle it. I'm PG. And that's okay.
It doesn't. I think what you're doing is I don't think you understand the ramifications that it has on our children and our families when we allow that type of
you can control that, right? You can control what your kids listen to. You know that I've raised some kids. My youngest is 22. So yeah, tell me about it again. That means they grew up all through the all through this, some in the 90s and into the 2000s.
So you're telling me that you don't see any kind of problem with the overall
I do. No, I do.
With music and how we're promoting each other and how we're seen in the media? You don't see a problem with any of it?
Some of it, yeah. Well, definitely the media. I mean, they do that on purpose. That's intentional. You know what I mean? I mean, you got to destroy our character. They've always done it. That's what they do. That's why I say, no, that ain't our culture. They try to claim things are our culture, and they'll put it out there to the world, and then we'll be like, look at us, look how we act, and it's like, come on, you should know that's not you, because you know you. You know your brothers and sisters. You know your friends. That's why I keep asking those questions when I hear that, because I'm like, is it you talking about yourself, your family and friends? Because we don't live like that. On the majority, we don't live like that.
What do I say? I said I'm trying to say what I. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've entertained some of the stuff. So I've sold drugs and did time and all kind of things. That I guess y'all would consider bad. The Pookie and Ray Ray or whatever. I just consider an average black person growing up.
So you sold drugs and you what else did you do as a criminal? What else did you do?
Whatever you name as criminal. That's a young person in the street.
And you did that to your own people. And you did that to your own people. Yeah. Did the white man put a gun to your head and tell you to do it, or did you decide to do it?
You got to understand the conditions. No, but it's the conditions of society that
you're breaking up, brother. You're borging a little bit.
How hungry you are going to determine how far you'll go and what you'll do. It's conditions.
Do you think do you think that that's a healthy mentality?
Kind of situation,
brother? Do you think that that's a healthy mentality? Hold on, I'm gonna ask you. Do you think that that's a healthy mentality? Like if you could have been if you could have been raised up without having that kind of a need or having that kind of hunger in the streets, would you have preferred not to do that? Right?
Yes. I'd prefer.
So that's what I'm trying to get at.
I would prefer my people not to be in an oppressive society, not to be in an oppressive state we're in. But also we must break out of that. If we can. Then we can handle, once again, go back to the analogy of a flood. If we can handle first dealing with the overall wave, then once we're done with that, we're not dealing with coming in, then we can talk about fixing all the damage caused by the oppression or caused by the wave. We can't try to fucking clean up the mess while the flood's coming in. And that's
do you take responsibility for the things you did in the past? Do you take responsibility for those crimes you committed?
I take
acknowledge that you were wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I'm wrong in things, but I also have to do what I got to do. I'm here now for some of the things I did. So yeah, you know what I mean? I did what I had to do.
So,
you know what I mean? But you have to live in certain kind of situations to understand certain kind of decisions you got to make. You know what I mean? And you're making, as one of the brothers was saying earlier, a lot of times we're making a decision as a young kid coming out the house, 12, 13, 14, as you start to get in trouble and this stuff piles on quick. It piles up on quick and it's hard to get out. They want to rope you in the system. And when they get you in the system, they try to lock you down in it and try to keep you coming back.
You chose to be in that system.
But it's not really a choice. It's not really a choice. I was a little kid. I'm a little kid. Trying. Right. I understand. But you've never been through it, so you really can't say. You've never experienced that kind of life.
You chose to do it. Take responsibility for what you did.
You were in the house and you didn't experience it. And you probably a little bitter about it. But that's okay.
Yeah. I don't. What I'm just trying to get at is that we understand what you're talking about. All I was trying to get at, and when no one's saying that there isn't oppression, but what I think everyone is trying to get at is that we need to start making conscious decisions to not allow this type of behavior anymore, and start shame and start putting.
You can't do it under oppressive conditions. It's like being a child. It's like being a child inside a house. Inside a house, you're adopted because the power structure is like they're adopted parents. They are an abusive adoptive parent. They're abusive adoptive parent, and you keep trying to figure out how I can live within this abusive parent. You have to kill this
I just came on stage and I've been listening to you guys' conversation. I just came on stage, so if you can permit me to speak a bit. Where did he go?
Oh, it's all good. Go ahead, brother.
Damn, you scared him off.
No, I don't think so. Some probably.
I didn't know you were that powerful. Damn.
No, man. Ellery, thanks. I wish he was on stage because I wanted to give a parallel to what's going on. Yes, it's not the same. Because when it comes to the United States of America, it's 10%, it's approximately 40 million to 50 million Black people. But I want to use a parallel with Nigeria, where I'm from, right? and it's 200 million people. It's a black country, right? Once you look at the absolute, this is a country where right now in the northeast of Nigeria, you have this Islamic Boko Haram going on, kidnappings, bombings. I mean, we're probably the only black suicide bombers in the world, right? You have all this real, crazy
Hey guys, my
killings.
bad. I had a call I had to hop on. I
Uh,
apologize. I don't
uh,
know. I don't know. What did I miss? Like I had to hop on this call.
You left us with that crazy Sia guy who just kept running his mouth off for 30 minutes, but I forgive
yeah.
you anyway.
Okay.
No
Okay.
worries.
I apologize about that.
No
How you
worries.
doing, Sasha?
We managed. We managed.
Yeah. So
He'll be back.
With all of that happening, right? Then you now look at the music, Afro beats. You look at Afro beats, you look at Nollywood. Once you look at these two, this is now our own mainstream media, right? Afro beats, you can see that it's more about enjoying life, praising the woman, look at my beautiful African woman and things like that, and see her ass, her figure and stuff like that, right? That's what it's about. But this is the most populous black nation on planet Earth, and is having some of the most violent atrocities happening within that country, within our country, Nigeria. But when it comes to the portrayal in the media, it's more, specifically the music, Afro beats music, it's more about praising the woman, how I'm trying to get the woman to love me, how she's beautiful. It's more about how I'm enjoying life, this is how I made it from nothing to something, right? And it has no criminality involved in that music or the condescending approach to women. However, yes, in the videos, obviously they still have their fake weaves on and things like that, and they're still twerking and all of that, right? But in the lyrics, you can see it's always, oh, look at the way she's shaking her ass. Okay, it's the African woman traditional dance and all of that, right?
Yeah.
And then you flow to, the sisters and brothers in the United States, and it's about, hey man, we're gonna be killing each other right now. You know what? I just sold drugs back in the day. I caught an ounce. I made it a fifth. I put it in the neighborhood and got my returns and things like that. And we can be able to see the difference. I don't know if I'm making any sense here.
100%.
And we can be able, so for CI to come on a public stage like this, especially on Dynast actual channel, which is a global black channel, really, and be talking about, he's happy with, like, man, what are you talking? And doing all this pushback as though he is happy with the way things are in America. I found that very disturbing.
But I'll say this. I mean, I don't agree with Sia at all. But I'll say this. At least he came on to express his views so he could be addressed. Because there are many people out there in the chat who support him who don't.
Ellery, that's true. That's true as well. And then there was one more thing when you were talking about racism, because I've been listening for a while. When you're talking about racism and people are doubting if there was racism in the UK, and I think it was someone was speaking about Jim Crow and
it
slavery.
was Sia was talking about Jim Crow and slavery, and I said, well, hold on a minute, that's America. Jim Crow and slavery, in my opinion, from what little knowledge I have, didn't exist exactly like America in England.
No, but
American racism is a different thing altogether, guys. I'm sorry.
Yes, that's a different ball game. However, you guys need to look up
I'm back. My bad.
Windrush generation. You need to look up the Windrush scandal, where after Second World War they imported a lot of Caribbean people into the United Kingdom to come and build their infrastructure, and they never gave them papers and stuff. And this intergenerational trauma of their children seeing their parents not being able to establish themselves in the UK is now why we're seeing the knife on knife crime, and the gangs and that in
Knife on
London.
knife crime was before the Windrush scandal, though. That was
Knife
going on
no,
before.
no, not at this. Like everybody wants to say that, but the reality is the level at which it is now that with the gangs and everything, you need to understand that intergenerational trauma. It's the same with the United States of America, in the sense that even black on black crime, you can specifically say, hey, prior to this specific time, we weren't really killing each other per se. And then after this happened, all of a sudden we have a generation who were brought up in broken homes, and then all of a sudden we're seeing this has escalated to this level.
Okay. Then
we can really
answer
put it down to
answer
that.
this question to me. We have a lot of communities.
Larry,
We have a lot of
Larry, Larry, can I ask a question? I'm so sorry to interrupt. So he brought up I caught the tail end in regards to the Windrush generation and them not being compensated and able to establish themselves. So, like, was the Indian population allowed to establish themselves in the UK, unlike the
yes.
black
Oh,
population?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
they
yeah.
experience racism as well. You tell the
Wait,
truth.
Ellery, wait 1 second. Oh, yes, because this was what happened. They first went to the Indians and the Pakistani, the Sri Lankans, and those to get them to come and do the work, right, for the infrastructure. But they weren't, they weren't rugged enough to do that work before they went to the Caribbean countries. And then when they got them black people in, you know how we are. We're like machines, right? We got the work popping. At the time we were working, guess what was happening? The Indians, the Pakistanis, and the rest, they started going, and because like in their religious beliefs, be it Hindu or Islam or whatever else they have going on, they don't drink that much or smoke that much. But we, after we've done so much work, then we want to drink and things like that. But that is just an excuse, right? But what they had been able to do was they started moving away from London, and then they started going and then working in other places that were deprived neighborhoods, and they were grouping themselves to purchase property. And from there, they evolved, right? But the racism was for everybody, because at every given time, the community did not want these brown and black people. And even, but what was happening was, how we are, black people were in a competition with white folks in London. They didn't really spread out that much, and they weren't doing group economics. Again, another point of where we're not doing group economics. When it comes to London as well, it was the same thing that happened. And so now, while the Asian community were able to evolve using group economics, what happened with the black community was they remained stagnant. So now the Asian community now controls power. Like you're all aware, the new prime minister is an Asian person from India. Well, the black community is still floating.
And that kind of speaks to what I was talking about as a broken culture. For whatever reason, us as Black people can't get ourselves aligned properly to take advantage of those situations. We just don't do it. Now, some people say it's a crab in a bucket mentality. Some people say, but I mean,
Yes, Alvin. It absolutely is, Alvin. That's all I just wanted to say. Because if you look at every scenario, is the fact that we didn't play group economics. We always have all these ideas. I heard you when you were speaking about Black Lives Matter. Same thing in the 21st century. We always bring everybody into our business without handling our business specifically and solely for ourselves.
Yeah.
But go on, Alvin. Make sure I put that.
I just us roots. I think got a little bit of feedback. All I was simply saying All I was simply saying again is just that, we have to be a little bit more nuanced about how we speak to each other and how we talk about this situation is all. And obviously, I'm not disagreeing with any, everyone on this panel had something that, was interesting to say. Even Sayao, he kind of proved the point, right? Like he kind of proved what I was saying is that, like, that type of behavior should not be acceptable. And we should come down hard on that type of behavior in our culture. And we don't. And until we can acknowledge that that's bad behavior and shouldn't be allowed, we're never going to get anywhere, which O'Leary was leading to also. Go ahead.
If I could add in really quick, because we have to Yaid, if I'm pronouncing it right, said, it is definitely about group economics, 110%. And, banking, people even from Jamaican culture, we do partner. I'm sure there's different forms of people who kind of help, within their family or communities to build money, to help them to build new homes and get stoves or get, their bill paid or, whatever it is that they need. But one thing that I do want to say is that when it comes down to what's being projected into the media and how the dismantled systematic approach towards taking down the Black Panther Party made a huge difference, because then that's when the drugs started to come in. That's when the jobs started to leave the Black communities. And I could kind of somewhat understand where Saya was coming from, because certain people within those situations, living in those hoods or living in those types of conditions, feel like they have no choice because they're being shunned out, or because there's a corner on every, a store on every corner that's being run by different cultures other than their own. So it's not to make an excuse for it. It's not to say that it is okay. It's just that if the Black people only have TV to watch all day, and they're being shown and talked to over and over again from the 80s to the 90s to the present moment now, this is what's being programmed and indoctrinated. Who's allowing this? To some extent, yes, we are the viewer and we have to take accountability, but we also need to take some accountability to calling out certain execs that have been profiting from this to feed their families that are not Black.
Yeah, to echo that sentiment, the two things that's really hurting us is that the airwaves, both on TV and radio, we have that we don't control, and that's really been hurting us. As far as, like, when you get in the car, you try to look for a radio station, you try to listen to some rap. What we're gonna hear most? We're gonna hear more gangster rap, and pretty much the R&B is pretty much the same. And then, as far as educating our children, yeah, we can put those things in our children, but send them to school. They're trying to indoctrinate our children with the rainbow agenda. So a lot of things to that sort are working against us, no matter how much time you put with your children. Not trying to make an excuse, but those things pretty much on a social level, those are the things that it's hard for our children to escape, So we that's going on, and that's the thing right now, that we don't have control over those levers as far as what's being put out in the airwaves, as far as on the radio, and what's being put out socially in our educational departments.
The thing I've never understood is, if you go down the route you're talking about how the system is bad, it's controlled by a group of people, you don't trust them and they're doing bad things, fine. Then why on earth would you let them teach your kids? Why don't you just homeschool your kids? Why are you putting your kids in the schools where they control it? Just homeschool your kids.
But you understand, you're speaking to the choir, right? We're talking about the majority of Black kids are going to go to those schools.
Well, whose fault is that? The parents should. If the parents feel the same way that the system is corrupt and the school system is corrupt, then it doesn't make sense. If they feel that the school system is corrupt, why are they then sending their kids to be taught by that school system?
It's impossible to feed your child, and most Black women I'm not going to speak for all Black women, but there's a decent majority of Black mothers that were single, that had to choose between keeping the lights on and feeding their children, and they can't educate their children, or to be able to do that. They had to go to work. They had to, be a nanny to somebody else's children. So
So
there's
then,
that disfranchising, because my mother was like that. I didn't turn out like no criminal or no drug dealer or anything like that. But at the same time, too, you have to understand that there are mothers out there that do not have that second line of support with a father.
so well, that you want to go down that route with about the father not being there. That's for a different group of guys to come in and challenge you on that. I'm just sticking to what people are saying here. Some of the people here
Well,
are saying that the
that's the
system.
reality.
Yeah, that's fine. Some of the people here, like yourself, you've clearly said the system is corrupt. Okay, fine. So I'm just surprised that then you said I haven't finished. I haven't finished. I'm just okay. I'm just responding to what you said. You've given us the speech where the system is corrupt. Fine, the system is corrupt. I'm just surprised that you would then trust that corrupt system to raise your kids. That's all.
No, what I'm saying is you're speaking for like a minority. In the majority in each group, I'm talking about whether you're Black, white, Hispanic, whatever. Majority of the people are going to send their kids to public schools. This is just how the system is created, as far as like, trying to, put food on the table, put a roof over their head, and still, keep family life and
Big Black,
keep the family going, as far as economically, pay bills.
Big Black.
It's easier said than
Therein lies the problem.
But you
There are
just
other
interrupted.
communities.
Let me
There are
finish.
other communities that don't push back against that. In the UK,
yeah, because they're
other
lying.
communities.
They're okay.
Wait, I haven't finished yet, Big Black.
No, you just interrupted me.
In regards to what you said,
Ellery,
there are other communities who push back. They choose to homeschool their own kids. You've got groups like I'll tell you who does that. You asked the question, I'll tell you.
What group in America? What group?
Okay,
what
I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to answer your question, but you're not listening to me. You're not listening to me. There are other communities who have the same problem, but they push back, where they practice group economics and they also school their own kids. You've got the Amish doing their things. You've got the Jews doing their things. In the UK, you've got the other communities like some Asians who are Muslims. They got their Muslim schools.
You got the Chinese.
If I may.
You got the Chinese.
Hold on. What we got other Larry, finish your thoughts. Let me pass it to Roots, because Roots has been raised.
So there are communities that choose, even some Black communities in the UK. I had a whole list in the UK of Black people who in different regions of the UK choose to do homeschooling. There is no excuse. If you are telling me that the system is corrupt, it makes no sense that you would then put your kids and trust your kids to be taught properly in that corrupt system. You're making no sense. You're complaining about the educational system, but then you're deliberately choosing to put your kids in that system.
But you're speaking from a two-parent household. I just want to put that out there. You're speaking from a two-parent household to where the mother is at home and the father is going to work. The mother is at home raising the children. If you are in a situation in America and you do not have the father there because he's incarcerated, dead, or whatever the circumstances may be, or just abandon his family, Black women, even, it's probably more easier to probably do that now if you can get a work at home job today. But back in the times in the 80s and 90s, that was not afforded to them.
All right, let me pass it to Roots. Go ahead, Roots. Go ahead, Roots. Unmute yourself, Roots.
Thank you, and greetings to everybody up on the panel. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. It's a lot of excuses for me, for us as a people. We've came to a time in life. You're saying your sister are looking at the 80s and 90s. I raised my children in the 80s and 90s, and it wasn't that big of a struggle, to be honest. And I grew up in the hood of Cali, where the gangbangers and the death rate and the drug dealings and everything was going on. For me, it was what was taught to me at home is what kept me different from whatever else was going on in the streets. So people don't want to think that it doesn't start at home, but it all starts at home. You can be in the worst area and grow up in some of the most oppressing places. But what was given to you at home on how to handle life? What tools were you given? If those tools weren't given, because I did watch a lot in the 80s when crack came out and was taking over, and I watched my friends' mamas lose everything. They staying at my house because the lights are out, ain't no food at home. Mama been gone for 2 weeks, 3 weeks at a time. They don't know what's going on, and we were kids, you know. And it still came back to, what was my original upbringing. That's how I helped my friends even go through the life that they were dealing with. As the earlier conversation, are we broken as a people? Hell yeah, we are. As Black people, we are so we took over what Massa wanted us to have, which is one for all. It's not about a community because they taught us not to have unity. So we have no unity. Our thing is, I'm going to get for me and mine, and you better go get you for yours. And that is a big problem with our community because, as people keep trying to say, with the Jewish, with the Chinese, with every other culture, when they come over to this country, they don't go and find out and live by the Black folks. They're going to where their people are. And what they're going to do is they're going to take that family in. There's going to be a group of people that take that family in, and everybody's going to contribute to that family until that family can get their own house, their own car, their own business. Black people, we see Africans come over here for one. I mean, that's a twofold thing too. And that's a whole nother little section. But yet and still, we don't take them in. We have that mentality that they don't like us. They have that mentality. We don't like them. And, and that's a planned division. How can we, it's not some more anymore of, oh, we're oppressed, we're this, because in actuality, in America, quite honestly, you can do pretty much whatever you want to do. You just have to have the determination and the guts to go after it. I done came from the hood. If you want to talk about slanging cane, gang banging, blah, blah, bloop, baby, I done been there, done it all. And it was my choice. It wasn't because I didn't, the home at home wasn't taught better or whatever. It was okay, but then the scenario of the streets, yeah, you follow along to get along. But then then you still have to look back at yourself every time you do a step. So eventually, as I got older, I was like, this is not the life that I want to live. I've been taught better. So I used to tell my friends around me, we better than this, homie. We don't have to live like this. And we all went off and went and did our thing. I'm in banking. Some of them went to the military, because in California, that's the main thing they do, but then we all went and we started doing our own little things, opening up businesses in life. And it's not just you oppressed and you keep the mentality, I'm oppressed forever. You get oppressed, yes, and you stay that way once you enter into the system. Sometimes you go into that system, and if you keep following that same line, then yeah, you're gonna feel oppressed because now your lifestyle has made it that you can't advance in life. Because we all know they're not about rehabilitation in a penal system. They're about getting money for you because they're still their legal slavery. It is written in the Constitution that it is their legal slavery to put you into the system. And if you fall for their okie doke, there are times where people get put into the system that had nothing to do with them. We see it all the time now on these videos where people are getting pulled over, driving while black, walking while black, and everything else while black. But once you get into that system, they can hold you there. That's only if you allow them to hold you there, because that means you're coming back to do something else and something else. It ain't you got a traffic stop and you moved on with life and grew up and kept on moving. You kept going into that well. So now you're oppressed, and now you want to blame society and this is what go on in my neighborhood and not. You can't blame nobody but yourself. But as a people, we need to find a way to be segregated without segregation, just like everybody else, because that's what all the rest of them do. They segregate themselves from everybody else. That's why you got little Chinatown, you got little Korea. I know in California, we got a little bit of everybody. They got their own town and everything. They live in a certain part of the city.
Segregation is cool. Hey, Ovi, you're what you call it? You were hold on, I'm echoing now. Hold on a second. Ovi, you were what you call it? You were echoing in Roots. You were echoing a little bit too. Let me pass it to Chrissy. Chrissy, go ahead and mute yourself. Then pass it to Ovi, and then we'll log out. Go ahead, Chrissy.
Yes, hi. I would say that if our ancestors could see, just this discourse in and of itself, I think that they would turn around and cry in their grave. I would. The actually, system. Give me a second. The weak, pathetic, and sappy generation that came generations later, that has things they didn't even think was possible. Money, resources, passports, the ability to walk down the street, things they wouldn't even have dreamed of would be possible. And it's doing not even less, but negative compared to what they did with real oppression. I hear everybody on here talk about oppression. But when they talk about oppression, they're talking about Jim Crow. They're talking about slavery. They're talking about Rosewood. But no one is talking about the oppression of today. What is stopping you today? What's stopping you today from having a family? What's stopping you today from working with 3 of your cousins and opening up a business? Right? The other lady who spoke is a breath of fresh air, because as she said, if you put yourself in a position, then yes, you'll face oppression. If you're, as Sia was, if you're a young person, yes, when you're a child, you don't know any better. You get wrapped up in stuff and then it just rolls and rolls. Yes, you will feel, go just for a second. Let me do my, just for, I'm sorry, I'm getting wrapped up because the interference, but you will feel oppressed. But for everybody else who is wearing oppression on their head, of Jim Crow, the time they never even lived in, and not seeing the opportunity they have. I see why the generation coming up is disillusioned. They're confused. They're angry. This is the most suicidal generation of young Black kids growing up, because the parents are acting so helpless, so weak. It's sad, and I mean that mindset does not change. And we might as well just roll over and die. Because you see every other group out there, these other groups of people, they're not pining over oppression. They're focused on how we can work together to compete. And all the oppressed people, quote unquote, who's crying oppression every 5 minutes, are going to be left in the dust, are going to roll right back into slavery. If our ancestors had the mentality I've even heard on this panel, we would still be in slavery. So why is it that they had more oppression and did more, and we have less and do much less? It doesn't make any sense. It's an excuse. We are lazy. Let me finish, please. We are undisciplined as a people. That is the real problem. We don't have the discipline, because it takes discipline. It takes pain to change your own behavior when you know you're wrong. To do things you want to do, but you know it's wrong. We don't do that. To start acting immorality, it's hard to change. We don't want to do that work. It's so much easier to fall back. And I don't know, we're waiting for the white God to come and lift us up and put us on his breast to suckle. I can't figure it out, because we are so mentally and spiritually weak as a people. And it's very sad. That's all I had to say.
It's a breath of fresh air.
Go ahead, Alvin. Then we'll pass it to OVDV. Go ahead, Alvin.
Like I said, I don't disagree with the young lady's message. I just think, again, that we have to understand that there is a little bit of nuance, and that, obviously we are responsible for our own behavior. We're responsible for our own actions. But as American Black people, and I can only speak for people here, just like Nigeria has their own country, just like, Ghanaians have their own country, Americans, Blacks have never been able to have their own country. We came from breeding farms. My last name is Holden, which is British. I'm not British. So when you kind of point fingers and hammer the people from this country, and yes, we are our culture is jacked up. Our culture is jacked up, and that need or want to be doctors and be educators or be engineers and so on and so forth, it's been bred out of us. A lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us, and we need to understand that. And if as long as we acknowledge that and we start to fix it, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to keep this even keel, because I want to be able to talk to both sides, because I recognize the position that our people are in here. I don't necessarily like the type of attitude and language that people come from other countries and they talk about American Blacks when they don't really understand what it was that what happened here. And sometimes they brush over the history, but they don't really dig in to the history. The fact that, there was 400,000 slaves here just over at 1808, and then there was 4 million slaves here in by 1865. That was the fastest growth of any population of any people on the planet ever. You won't be able to find it. How did that happen? Breeding farms. But people don't understand that. In a 50-year time, there was 10 times more Black people that popped up in this country than there was before, after they stopped bringing us over on boats. But people don't really understand that part. So when the Black women were the original baby mamas, like the slave owned original baby mamas. It's burned into our culture to not be connected to the man that you're having a child with. So when we talk about the things that are happening and so on and so forth, we need to understand that there's a little bit more history behind it, and that, it's not just quite as simple as just being like, oh, you guys just don't act right. Well, you're right, we don't. But, like I said, I believe a large percentage of our people here in this country, and I'm being facetious when I say it, but we got brain damage. We were killed if we learned how to read. In Nigeria, do you get murdered when you learn how to read? Were you getting lynched when you learn how to read? In Ghana, do they kill you when you learn how to read?
But they had problems with colonization. They weren't sitting down chilling on hammocks during colonization.
Well,
I understand.
If you're thinking about the ratio of white people,
all I'm simply saying is just, and I'll be done. I'm sorry. All I'm simply saying is just that.
Alvin, you know that during the colonization era, it was banned for Africans to actually read as well, right? In fact, at some point, it was until they were 16 years old before they could go to school.
Because education is power. Education is power.
But it was still a Eurocentric academic curriculum, anyways.
Well, what I'm saying is just that our particular situation here in the United States is just a little bit different. All I'm saying. It's just a little bit different.
I am not I just wanted to put that in there, but we understand what you're saying, and we absolutely think that you might be thinking that we don't have in-depth knowledge about what exactly you, as a specific demographic group of Black people within the Black community,
that is often how it comes across.
But yes, and that's why I am speaking there, and I apologize for anyone who has made you feel that way.
No,
it's
not about. It's really
no. Could you just allow me to emotionally push share this empathy with you, because it's very important.
Yes,
it's really very important. So it's not just you, it's also for the audience as well. And we Africans, some of us, and maybe majority of us, actually know the plight of this specific demographic group of our sisters and brothers in the United States and what they have been through. Yes, you might see a lot of ignorance on social media and paid Africans to get on national TV and spew out ignorance and stuff like that. However, there is so much love. I mean, Dynast will tell you, once you're African American, they want to know everything about you on the continent. They want to know, what's going on? We absolutely, the reason why hip hop is as big as it is is when it went international to Caribbean countries and African countries. That's the reality about it. Every time there is this urge for us to connect together, and that is the bottom line of it. Sometimes you see Africans come across like they don't really know, but the reality is we are always learning more about each other. And the truth is that was what was denied to us for decades. Since there was any type of medium of communication, it's been denied to us for decades. And social media now, in the last 20 years or so, has got us to even start appreciating each other more. I mean, prior to 20 years ago, most, let's say, African Americans just believe like, hey, Africans are just running around naked in huts, and things like that,
That
So
was the narrative that was told to us. Absolutely.
yes. So, and then we were like, oh, it's just gangbanging going on there. But then now we're seeing creativity. And that's one thing about what Kanye West is doing right now, is literally has people going to pull out issues about Ashkenazi Jews and their involvement in the slave trade. Just hearing that, what? Wait a minute. You want to tell us that all these mediums and all these people we are praising and we're clapping just to see another Black person being successful is being controlled by a group of people that have no talent? Like, we are shocked about this.
Yes, and it's about having compassion as well. I understand that, yes, people do have passports and, come to this country and they can build themselves up. But you have to understand if we're looking at the education, if we're looking at the history, this is constantly indoctrinated in us every single day. It's on TV. It's in our education. It even happens to us when we're dealing with prejudice situations at our jobs or being put down. Because if we're looking at how much money Black men and Black women are making, especially Black women are making in comparison to the corporate, world of America, we're disproportionate. And it's not to be in this space of feeling oppressed all the time. I did my best and I'm still working on my business, but I was even creating my business. And it was even someone that was a millionaire that had millions of dollars that gave me the idea to pursue something, was so quick within a flash to turn around on me and say, oh, you're fake, you're this, you're that, and attempt to keep me suppressed, and then turn around and say that you're a peasant. So we even do this. Some people that have higher status do this to people that are less fortunate. You know what I mean? And that is what has to change. It's a colonized mentality that we can't continue to basically perpetuate, crime and all of this stuff and toxicity and make money off of it. The contradiction of that individual to make money off of the things that we're trying to, discuss and talk about, and then turn around and keep someone down and say that they're a peasant when they're trying to do the right thing and just go the straight and narrow way and make money, the clean way. So we have to change that, and we have to have some compassion towards each other. And I appreciate you, Yad, for actually having compassion, and expressing that, because we need to have compassion for each other,
Not
love
just
each other.
compassion, empathy, because compassion is, hey, I'm over there, but I feel but empathy is like, hey, this indirectly happened to me as well.
Yes.
And that's the difference between empathy and compassion.
Or just,
Anybody
having love. Yes.
yeah, but
yes.
empathy is far more important for us than compassion.
Yes.
Compassion is a white person, a Chinese, an Asian, an Indian can have compassion. But empathy is, this is my sister and my brother, and what they're going through, I have gone through it indirectly as well. So it's affecting me to my bones, through my bloodstream. That's empathy.
I love it. Thank you.
Dynast, I wanted to ask you if Herschel Walker becomes.
Before you go, I also sorry, I put in the chat that can I have 2 minutes? Can you be able to time me for that 2 minutes so I can talk about what the African Union has started to do?
Hold on, I know, but let Larry ask his question.
Okay,
Larry, go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Dynast, when Herschel Walker becomes the
Hey,
governor,
Herschel's gonna win. Listen, Herschel Walker is about to be our
when
senator.
when
Herschel
he
Walker's
wins,
gonna win.
when Herschel wins, do you think he will implement policies to reduce crime in Atlanta and other parts of Georgia?
Well, he's already said he wants to get. So they're trying to push this, I guess, no cash bail. So he's gonna remove that, you know. And then if you just look at these liberal cities throughout America, I mean, San Francisco, LA, New York, it's anything goes, dude. Like it's literally anything goes, you know. So
So he's gonna clean up house and then.
Well, I hope so, but it's weird because we have a Republican governor, and then we have a liberal mayor, Andre Dickus, who's a Democrat. So there's some, like, I think there's checks and balances, but if you look at these cities, major cities who are in Democratic ran states who have Democratic mayors, they're out of control. LA, San Francisco, New York, Chicago. I mean, it's just anything and everything goes. So they're trying to, and I'm just trying to warn people, like they're trying to get to that point here in Atlanta. Because I mean, they're, you know, but I'm just like, listen, dude, like you don't want Atlanta to look like LA or New York. Because I mean, or San Francisco, because it's not a win for Black people.
Do you have like high black on black violence there?
Of course.
If I may, can we the black on black term is a term that was created to intentionally put targets on our backs. People commit crime to people that are close to them. There's no white on right crime, but white people still commit crime. I'm not doing a whataboutism. All I'm saying is that term is used as a weapon, and we need to acknowledge it. That's all. Like that particular term, black on black crime, is a term that's used specifically when they say crime, they mean us. When they say war on crime, they mean us. And a lot of these dog whistles are not being understood by a lot of people. So when you say black on black crime, it's not. I know you mean it, and I know we mean it as we say it in an honest way, but it's just not interpreted that way. And thank you so much, Dynas, for having me on, man. I appreciate you. This has been amazing. You guys are dope. I've been kind of ninja watching you for the last couple of months now, so you've been doing great work, brother. I appreciate you. And all I wanted to do is just to provide a ADOS voice to at least represent, you know, a even keeled man that's just trying to do good, and to let everyone know that we're not all the way, you know, we see on the media. That's all.
Alvin,
thank you.
That's
Alvin,
great.
Alvin, you said
Alvin.
you're even keeled. I just wanted to tell you something. And you wanted to straddle and help both sides of the argument.
It's not necessarily straddle, but I mean, I understand that there's two sides to every story, and it's not as cut and dry as we like.
And all I wanted to say is Noah couldn't save everyone.
Facts.
You can't save everybody.
Facts.
Hey, Dottis, can I say something?
Thank you, brother.
Hold on, let's pass it back to yeah, then we'll pass it to you, Big Black, and then we're gonna close out because I gotta go too. So go at yeah, then we'll pass it to Big Black.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so Alvin has left. But anyways, the African Union last year, 2021, 1st of January, launched the African Continental Free Trade Agreement area. That means that the entire continent with one African passport, you could travel everywhere. It's going to take at least 10 years for that to be established. Then there'll be an AU passport type of thing, similar to what's happening in the EU. By the 7th of September 2021, that's practically 7 months later, they had the first virtual summit between African countries and Caribbean countries. And you know, presidents, prime ministers were in attendance, and they're talking about collaborating the same group economics we're talking about. So they want to bring them into the African Continental Free Trade Agreement area and have them part of it. This is now the African continent reaching out to its diaspora, the African American community, adults. That's why I really wanted Alvin to be here. That connection hasn't been done yet. And people like Dyna's channel is one of those channels that helps with that connection. Now, this year, 2022, I think it was from the 1st of September to the 3rd of September 2022, the in-person economic forum happened in Barbados, where they signed some deals in Barbados between African Union and CARICOM. CARICOM is the body as well for Caribbean countries. I think with what Kanye West is doing now and is raising awareness to everyone else, especially I'm sure Africans, that hey, wait a minute. So our sisters and brothers don't own all of this, mediums and sports teams and all this entertainment things, and they are practically working for other people. I think it's a great opportunity now that Kanye is no longer with his deals and all of that to absolutely be able to establish that first line of, hey, okay, we love your creativity. You're talking about engineering. That's brilliant. How can we create what your engineering, ideas are? Say, if you want to get the manufacturing and things like that set up, even if it's on the African continent, or if you think, oh, the African continent maybe is too far away, maybe it's Caribbean countries, and be able to put that into the African Continental Free Trade Agreement area as well, be a part of that. So it has that symbol of it's Black owned and it's part of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement area, and be able to ship to Caribbean countries and African countries and to the United States of America. I think that would be a great way to evolve from what he has been going through now that he's free of those contracts, to a new phase where we really will be establishing a global institution where the core foundation of that institution is global Black group economics. So I just wanted to make sure we end with that, with everybody hearing that part. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. There's going to have to be logistics companies, shipping companies, trains. They have to build roads on the continent, in Caribbean countries, ports, banks. Now, JP Morgan doesn't want his money, $100 million US. He can open his own bank. He can get a banking license in a Caribbean country that doesn't pay taxes, one of those safe havens, or on the African continent, and then set up his own bank and fund his operations as well. So I think this is interesting times for the ADOS community and how strategic the ADOS community will be able to implement moving forward. And with Kanye West leading that surge, yes, I know some people say he's a coon, he's anti-Black, blah, blah, blah. Let's keep those emotions aside and let's just say, hey, let's just do group economics, and that's it. If that's what he was fighting for, well, this is an opportunity.
Let me pass the mic to Big Black, and then
with that, thank you so much, Dynasty, for everything you're doing in your channel.
I appreciate it, brother. And then I'll pass it to Miriam after that. Then we'll close out. Go ahead, Big Black.
Yeah, well, all I want to say is that there's some things that are done right now that indirectly oppress Black people that that we tend to escape, and then a lot of times on these panels,
can you give me an example?
The rainbow agenda being pushed to our community, for one.
But we could reject that. We openly accept that.
No, I would argue that you're going to see it a lot. As far as starting with the kids, they push it in the schools.
Right. But we could reject. I mean, we could reject that if we truly.
Well, what I'm saying is when you send your kids to school and they teach these things are being taught on a constant basis. Even if you teach your kids not to accept that, they're constantly getting pressure, peer pressure from school, to accept it. So what I'm saying that it's a factor. It's a negative factor that we have to look at as a whole and say, okay, there's a reason why going to Atlanta. You know, Atlanta's looked at the gay capital, the black capital of America now. You know what I mean? There's a reason why it's looked at that. It's no coincidence that the CDC is in, in Atlanta. You know, so what I'm saying is there's a reason why, and these are things that affect us, and there has been a plan to push this agenda in our community. You know, so even we can go even back to George Soros, to Black Lives Matter. When you look on their website, what are you going to see? You're going to see the gay agenda, basically. So when I'm saying there's a lot of things that are done indirectly, present day, that we fail to look at. So we have to keep that in mind when we do the analysis of what's going on in our community.
Yes, sir. Let me pass it to Miriam and we're close out. Miriam, go ahead. Miriam, you there?
I'm here. Okay, I'll try to be quick. I just want to say, first of all, thank you for having me on the panel, and that I just want everyone to understand that the Black community has a way of oscillating between white supremacy and then fixing our inner problems. Like when after liberation, we were left alone. I mean, I'm not FBA, so I say the FBAs were left alone, and then they had to fix their own communities and build within. But then once they had such magnificent places, I think the white world got jealous and upset and started raiding them. So then they had to deal with the white supremacy again. It's like it oscillates back and forth. And right now we're in the stage where we're fixing the insides. So some people might look and say, "Oh, there's no white supremacy. You're foolish for thinking there's white supremacy." But it's like around right now. It's not there because we're working on our insides. But once that gets fixed, eventually we're going to have to deal with that again. So I just want to put that into perspective. Also, I just wanted to say that when I was younger, okay, look, I didn't know any better, and I had no one to guide me, okay? But I didn't know what to do with myself, and I converted and I became Jewish, okay? And I went to live in Israel, and there they lived by a code. The first thing they told me is get rid of your TV. I had to get rid of my TV. And it required a lot of strength, but there was nothing for me to think about except the world around me, and that really changed my way of thinking. And I know having a code requires a lot of strength, but I hope that we can get to that point where we turn off the voices of any outside our community, and work on our strength to having a code. And finally, I want to say that.
And Miriam, I need to do a separate show. Me and you, the code that they operate by behind the scene. Like that's a whole separate show. But go ahead.
Okay, and then finally, I just want to end with I have this, from what I'm seeing in the news, I suspect that the world is eventually going to be treated like Black people, almost as if Black people were the guinea pigs, and now the corporations and the WEF or whatever, they feel like they're ready now to and people are fighting against it. And I don't know, I just hope that we're aware and we don't just keep like chasing our tails, but we work towards having a food source, having, taking care of ourselves. That's it. Thank you.
Hey, I appreciate it. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, family, love y'all and peace.
Thank you.